Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Colloquium 2021.
I, Diksha Jadhav.
I, Payal Joban Putra, we will be your hosts for the day. Colloquium 2021 is a conference that provides a platform for students to obtain authentic and unfiltered view from experts we have here today. The sage words put more young minds to envision better.
With immense honor, we would like to introduce our institution, Pale Tilak Vidyalaya Association, also known as PTVA, which is an educational institute. PTVA is nearly 100 years old with a wonderful history of its own. Our illustrious alumni have spread all over the globe in every field, setting a benchmark with their notable contributions. They have brought glory to PTVA. At present, Pale Tilak Vidyalaya Association, under its umbrella, is imparting quality education to nearly 26,000 students through different institutions, from primary to postgraduate degree courses.
Now, we would like to take this opportunity and thank our college, our principal Dr. Madhav Rajwade, Vice Principal Dr. D.M. Nerkar, Professor Pramodini Sawant Ma'am, BMS Department Coordinator Professor Shashank Pai, and our faculty members for always providing us with support and encouragement and for making this happen. It couldn't have been possible without their aid.
The theme for fourth edition of Colloquium is Envision. Today we have with us accomplished personalities who have used their creative and innovative thinking to make a difference. We have invited them to share their experiences and opinions and make young minds present here perceive that anything that can be envisioned can be achieved.
We all had our own toil in this pandemic, and COVID 19 brought nothing for us but turned our lives upside down in horrendous ways. Many people lost sight of hope, and many suffered various losses. With this topic, Envision, we want to inculcate in young minds how, under such circumstances, one can stand strong and take advantage of the situation and envision for better to strategically tackle with such situations.
But before we begin, we would like to show you a glimpse of the previous edition of Colloquium.
Inspiring us through our way, ensuring our success, and encouraging us to fulfill our potential. He influences us that goes far beyond academic achievements. We would like to now call our light bearer and the reason behind this successful event to enlighten us with their words of wisdom. The head of BMS department, Professor Shashank Pai. I am very sorry to interrupt you, sir. You are on mute.
Sorry, yeah. Thanks, Payal, for that wonderful introduction. A very good evening to all of you. I take this privilege of welcoming all of you to this wonderful, enlightening conference called Colloquium. I'm sure at the end of this conference, we will have a long list of learnings. But before we start the conference, I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart our dear principal, Dr. M.R. Rajwade, and our vice principals, Dr. DM Nerkar and Professor Pramodini Sawant, for their unwavering support and constant motivation to us to do this event. Also, it is with immense pride I would like to tell all of you that this event, this conference Colloquium 2021, is an event of the students, for the students, and by the students. That means the entire the entire conceptualization and up to the execution of this event is completely done by the students. So I congratulate the entire Colloquium to 2021 team led by Sana Churi and Swastik Gadge for putting up this wonderful performance.
I am sorry to interrupt you, sir, again.
Okay.
You are on mute.
Okay. Can you tell me where I stopped, please?
Congratulating the team.
Yeah, so I congratulate the team for putting up such a wonderful event. To the team, I would like to tell that your choice of topics is very relevant and contemporary, and your choice of speakers is par excellence. Kudos to you, the entire team, for this. Also, I would like to appreciate the efforts of my colleague, Professor Shruti Karande, who has had the lion's share in guiding students for this event. And also, I would appreciate Professor Manjari Bhosle for her constant motivation to students. Now, last but not the least, Sir Isaac Newton once said, "If I have looked further, it is by standing on the shoulder of giants." We have not one but three such giants today with us. Giants not in their size, but in their experience and expertise, namely Mr. Jawahar Surisetti, Mr. Harsh Goela, and Mr. Sizo Kurvila George. In spite of their busy schedules, they have accepted our invitation and are ready to share their knowledge with us. We really feel blessed and lucky for this. I am sure all of us are really excited to hear them already. So without much further ado, let's begin Colloquium 2021.
Thank you, sir, for your delighting words. Now, moving forward, we would like to introduce the first topic.
Young bulls raging through the market. With forthcoming technology and young minds exploring in stock market, it is now gradually rising towards boom. With growing knowledge and people losing their job, stock market has become the new source of making money. It's time to take position and be bare on 9 to 5 jobs and bull on upcoming opportunities.
For this topic, we would like to introduce our first speaker. He is a rain man in investing, and he is also a trainer and mentor in stock market. He also trains on behalf of BSc and NSC. He co-founded Goela School of Finance in 2015 with a laser-sharp focus on equipping people with financial knowledge. He educates more than 2 lakh people in various countries. He is a public speaker, and he has also delivered a TEDx talk which gained more than 1 million views worldwide. At the age of 21, he reached the top 8 motivational speakers in the country. He has also co-authored an ebook called Stock Market, a Disaster Waiting to Happen. Presenting you this astounding personality, Mr. Harsh Goela. Welcome, sir. The platform is all yours.
Hello. Thank you so much, guys. That was a very, very kind introduction. And if you can hear me and see me properly, can you just give me a thumbs up so that I know that everything's perfect, perfect, perfect. So first of all, thank you for thinking me to be worthy enough to be at this platform. And I would like to congratulate you for maintaining the entire event. The faculty, you are very lucky, all your students, because I've been to more than 100 colleges for sessions, and faculty always not very supportive. But in your case, you are very, very lucky. So I cannot congratulate you enough on it. And I need to tell this in advance itself that all the students out there, you really need to thank the entire team, because your team, the entire student body team, has been connected to my team since I think since the last couple of weeks, and we had a last minute change in timing, and I was scheduled to be came later, but I came earlier. So thank you for that team for adjusting my time schedule. Okay, now without any further ado, let us talk about stock markets. ठीक है, आज क्या करने वाले? If I talk in Hindi or break into English, is it okay, or do you prefer only English or Hindi? It's okay, okay, perfect. देखो यार, we have how much time? We have about 30 to 40 minutes. My entire objective here is not to teach you stock market because that is not possible. My entire objective is for me to make stock markets cool for you. Okay? When you start reading a newspaper or Economic Times, you don't tear up the paper. I'll tell you my story. At the age of 18, I did not go to college. Why? Because I love stock markets and my past history, which has been talked over in TEDx and Joe, so I don't talk about that. But the fact, when I enter at the age of 18, when I entered stock markets, I remember I used to watch CNBC TV for hours. मुझे कुछ समझ नहीं आता था. I tried reading the Economic Times, खोला, दो लाइन पढ़ी जा रहा हूँ, कुछ समझ नहीं आता. So much so I used to sometimes just tear up the paper and just throw it away. Right? So I can get it that the world of finance, the world of stock markets can be very intimidating. बहुत scary हो सकता है. और अगर आपको idea नहीं है तो मतलब इसके बारे में आप try भी करोगे पढ़ने के लिए तो chances are that you will get scared. But I don't want that thing to happen to you जो मेरे साथ हुआ था, because stock market is the easiest thing out there. Easiest. ठीक है. Now, first, you need to understand is that investing and trading in stock markets, was an option for your parents. It was an option for your grandparents. It is not an option for us. Matlab, I'll be humble enough to count me in your generation. So I would say it is not an option for us. Why? Abhi, I'm going to explain the current economic situation in simple terms. ठीक है? और हो सकता है मैं थोड़ा fast speed में जा रहा हूँ, but if you have any doubt, if you want anything, so please be sure to ask me all your questions in the Q&A round. I'm going to try and address all your concerns. ठीक है? Now the last 2020, the last year 2020, हम सबको पता है what happened. Nobody could have imagined that year in their worst nightmares. There was a healthcare crisis, wherein some of the biggest countries had a healthcare failure. It was like Italy, like America. Economic crisis tha. It was it's a complete disaster, right? अब इस situation में, what would the government do? जहाँ economic crisis है, people have had job cuts, pay cuts. There are several businesses that are finding it difficult to survive because as of now in India, recently a fact I read, don't quote me on this, is that only 2% of Indian businesses are online. The rest are all offline. So I'm assuming all of them are majorly affected. I don't have any fact to prove that. So इस situation में what can the government do? सोचो, मुझे कमेंट करके बताओ, what can the government do? And again, I want you to close your economic books. I want you to close that thing जो बड़े बड़े शब्दों में नहीं. If you cannot explain me something in simple terms, मुझे वो चीज नहीं है. मतलब अगर मैं आपको कोई चीज आसान शब्दों में नहीं समझा सकता ना, I don't know that thing myself. So we need to talk in very simple terms. What would that government do? कोई भी government. I'm not only talking about the Indian economy. I'm talking about the world economy. In situation में what does the economy do? Simple आपको आंसर दूं. Economics, nobody knows the future. No one knows the future. Right? That is why economics, I would say, is the easy subject to learn because यहाँ पे no one can predict the future. हम सब past होते हैं, ऐसा क्यों हुआ? ये तो कोई भी बता सकता है. Right? So I'm not trying to demean economists. Me being economist, I'm not trying to demean any economist. I'm just telling you the nature of the field of economics, what people perceive and what it actually is. ठीक है? अब what the world uses, the world economy uses, is the Keynesian theory. What is the Keynesian theory? Keynesian theory बहुत simple है. You pump in money into an economy, that economy starts working. किसी भी economy में पैसा डाल दोगे ना, that economy starts working. कैसे? I live in Delhi. ठीक है? अब I live in Delhi, so मैं क्या करूँगा? If suppose I give every citizen of Delhi, let's say a sum of 50 lakh rupees सबको दे दिया. ठीक है? मैं सबको 50-50 लाख रुपए दे दिया. अब इसका outcome क्या होगा? People will buy more, and Delhiites है तो पक्का बहुत सारा सामान खरीदेंगे, right? We will buy fashion stuff, we will buy watches, we'll buy technology, we'll refurnish our houses, we'll buy new furniture, we'll buy new cars, fancy equipment. होगा क्या? Demand will increase. जैसी demand बढ़ जाएगी, companies will sell more, they will increase production, they will give out more jobs, entire employment cycle would increase, salaries would increase, और पूरी economy अच्छी होगी. तो Keynesian theory क्या बोलती है? Very simple terms. You pump in money into any economy and that economy starts working. If you are clear, आपको समझ आ गया है, right? Okay. So that I know that you're on the same page with me. There is a small lag, I think, जो YouTube comments और जो मुझे मिलेगा YouTube comments में, तो no worries. But if you're clear, please write okay. ठीक है? Keynesian theory. Simple. Do you remember in the lockdown news आई थी that the Narendra Modi government is issuing 20 lakh crores to the economy? News हर जगह आई थी. 20 lakh crores, anchors were going crazy that 20 lakh crores have been given to the world Indian economy. अब तो सब problem solve हो गई, right? So this was happening in India, where in the world got a stimulus. Stimulus को वही liquidity push को stimulus बोलते हैं. कुछ बहुत कुछ पढ़े लिखे लोग इसको स्टिमुलस पैकेज बोलते हैं, कुछ और पढ़े लिखे लोग इसको क्वांटिटेटिव ईजिंग बोलते हैं, some other people call it helicopter money. No matter what you call it, ultimately it is easy. Okay, that's what you need to remember. So let's call it stimulus. तो वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी गॉट अ स्टिमुलस ऑफ $8 ट्रिलियन. इंडियन इकोनॉमी जो हम सबको न्यूज में जो ध्यान है जो सबसे ज्यादा हुआ था 20 लाख करोड़ व्हेन द नरेंद्र मोदी गवर्नमेंट पुश्ड इनटू द इकोनॉमी. अब व्हेन यू ट्राई टू रीड द करंट न्यूज ना, अब आपको समझ आएगा हो क्या रहा है, क्योंकि अभी पूरी इकोनॉमी चल किस में रही है, स्टिमुलस पे चल रही है. सो अब जब आप न्यूज पढ़ोगे, व्हेन यू टॉक टू पीपल, व्हेन यू डिस्कस इकोनॉमिक्स, यू विल हैव अ बेस अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट व्हाट इज एक्चुअली हैपनिंग राइट नाउ. ठीक है. अब आई एम गोइंग टू टेक asset by asset by asset. Okay, so I'm going to take first, I'm going to take can I share my screen? Yes. Okay, so I'm sharing this whiteboard. So first I'm going to take the financial asset जो हम middle class लोगों को बहुत पसंद है, and that financial asset is none other than we put our money in banks, right? Because historically, prehistorically, मेरे बाबा used to put his money in post office. उस समय post office में भी deposit होता था. I don't know how many of you know this, right? Then my parents used to put their money in bank, and of course, मतलब not me because I'm in stock markets, but historically I've seen everyone or middle class to be families होती हैं, which statistically speaking, majority of you would fall in that bracket. We put our money in banks. ठीक है. अब दिस अ वेरी सिंपल कॉन्सेप्ट. अगर मैं जो आपको जनरली समझा रहा हूँ ना, इफ अगर आप इसको समझ गए, टू अंडरस्टैंड न्यूज, टू मतलब टू गेट द एबिलिटी टू लॉजिकली रीजन एवरीथिंग, वो आपको मिल जाएगी. सो आई होप यू मेक द बेस्ट आउट ऑफ इट, बिकॉज अगेन यू गाइस आर वेरी लकी दैट यू हैव अ student council team that's working so hard for you, and moreover you have a faculty that is so supportive of you. ठीक है. So if there are any questions, please write them down so that Q&A session को address कर पाए. Okay, banks में क्या होता है? Banks operate on interest rates. When I talk about interest rates, I mean both of deposit and loan. मैं दोनों interest rate की बात कर रहा हूँ. ठीक है. अब जब भी इकोनॉमी में स्टिमुलस इशू होता है ना, Keynesian theory has been applied, interest rates drastically reduce. क्यों? सिंपल लॉजिक ये है, इंटरेस्ट रेट्स कम हो जाएंगे. अब नाउ आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू बाय अ होंडा सिविक बिकॉज कार लोन सस्ता है. आई एम गोइंग टू बाय अ मर्सिडीज GLE. ठीक है, वो तो चलो बहुत ज्यादा गैप हो गया, बट यू गेट द एग्जांपल. ठीक है. देन इफ डिपॉजिट्स आर गिविंग मी लेस इंटरेस्ट रेट, मैं पैसा सेव करूंगा? बिल्कुल भी नहीं, उड़ा दूंगा. आई विल बाय मे बी न्यू फोन बिकॉज आई एम नॉट गेटिंग मच इंटरेस्ट एनीवेज. तो इसलिए यू विल सी, अच्छा, in your mind, just keep the figure. What do you think we will get on a fixed deposit? अगर मैं बैंक में fixed deposit account खोलता हूँ for 1 year, what do you think we will get interest rate of? सोचो. It's actually.
I am very sorry to interrupt you, sir. The audience is not able to hear you clearly. Can you please increase the volume little bit, please?
Okay. So is it better now? Is it better now? Does it help?
Little bit more if you can.
Just a second. Let me just check my settings. Yeah. How is it now? Better? Or just too much?
Perfect, sir.
Good?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for getting it sorted. Okay. So what was there any last thing you caught on, or did I miss a very major chunk of it? So I'll just continue from here. Okay. Okay. So where were we? Okay, we were talking about the bank interest rates. Now, you know, if you put your money in fixed deposit for 1 year right now, you get about 4 to 5% per annum, of course. And this is shocking, right? So I can see in the YouTube comments, yes, now it's perfect. The audio is perfect. Why is that? और आप खुद सोचोगे, lot of you might have thought it's harsh, it must be 7 to 8%, 6 to 7%. Some must have thought about 10 to 11%. क्यों? Because 5 years ago, those were actually the interest rates. 7%, 8% you used to get from a bank. Our grandparents used to get 11%, 12%. So, bank it, अगर आप current economic situation देखोगे, the stimulus will be issued more and more to the economy. The bank interest rates will come down. तो again, आपने हमेशा नोटिस किया होगा that the difference between a middle class person and rich is constantly increasing. If you are in the middle class bracket, it is the worst thing one can do for yourself. Again, you're not earning right now, so maybe you might not be realize it. But आप खुद सोचो, जो रोड रेज होती है ना, वो जो सड़क पर लोग लड़ते हैं, it's not the rich person who fights, it's not the lower income person who fights, it's always the middle class person because he's frustrated with life. And the problem is this, that middle class people keep their money in banks and the interest rate of banks is constantly decreasing, so much so that it is now hardly beating the inflation. So again, investing and trading stock market was an option for your parents. It is not an option for you. And if you are someone who's like, "Arey bro, I don't understand this. I'm too cool for stock markets. Mutual funds mein samajh nahi aata." I get it. Okay, we all want to be cool, but I don't want to be the flag bearer of bad news. But if you say that, and if you actually believe in that, you will actually regret those statements heavily in your life. So please don't tell yourself that you're too young to invest, and invest very, very small amounts, and be sure that your parents also know are in the picture, right? So you can get the right direction. Okay, bank is clear. Now I'm moving to the second asset, and that is gold. Right now, let's be honest, हम Indians हैं और हमें सोने से बहुत प्यार है. We love gold, right? We worship gold. We have a very cultural connection to gold. My nani tells my mom is that Sunila, मेरी mom, is that so buy jewelry, buy gold jewelry. Investment भी हो जाएगी और शादी में भी काम आ जाएगा, right? So this is something that I think most of us would relate to because Indians हैं and we have a special place to gold. Now let's discuss: is gold a good investment? ठीक है. अब सबसे पहली चीज आप देखोगे टू अंडरस्टैंड इफ गोल्ड इज गुड इन्वेस्टमेंट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड द हिस्ट्री. और ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट है. इफ यू जस्ट टेक कि गोल्ड बेस्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट है, नहीं. इफ यू जस्ट अज्यूम कि गोल्ड खराब इन्वेस्टमेंट है, दैट इज आल्सो रॉन्ग. यू नीड टू लॉजिकली क्वेश्चन इट. अब खुद देखोगे गोल्ड क्या है. इज गोल्ड अ कमोडिटी? इज गोल्ड एन एसेट? इज गोल्ड एन इन्वेस्टमेंट? नहीं. इज गोल्ड अ लाइबिलिटी? नहीं. व्हाट इज गोल्ड? गोल्ड इज अ करेंसी. When the human race we discovered gold का काम क्या था? Not to build or not to destruct, not to do anything. The only objective was gold. Purpose of gold was to be used as a currency. So currency is a different financial asset. क्या मैं 10 रुपए का नोट जेब में रख के उसको इन्वेस्टमेंट बोलूंगा? नहीं, right? Okay, so I'll give you a very simple example which will clear things out for you. Now let's take the price of gold is rupees 10,000. I'm taking random examples, random prices. Let's take 1 ounce. International market, gold is bought and sold in ounce, right? In let's say 1990, hypothetically, just to explain you. Then the price of gold in the year 2000, again 1 ounce of gold, is rupees 25,000. So would you say gold has appreciated? Yeah. कि हाँ हर्ष कि 1990 में गोल्ड वाज 10,000 आउंस. नाउ गोल्ड इज 25,000 रुपीज आउंस. तो गोल्ड तो यार देखो अप्रिशिएट किया है. वेल, इट्स रॉन्ग. गोल्ड हैज नॉट अप्रिशिएटेड. व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इज इन्फ्लेशन. ये बहुत सिंपल कॉन्सेप्ट है. महंगाई. इन्फ्लेशन क्या होता है? महंगाई. फॉर दैट सेम थिंग यू आर पेइंग मोर मनी. I used to buy the Amul butter for 35 rupees. Now I'm paying 55. For that same thing, I'm paying more money. ठीक है. बटर सेम है, क्वांटिटी सेम है, बटर क्वालिटी सेम है, बटर पेपर सेम है, एवरीथिंग इज सेम. Same in the situation of gold. 1 ounce of gold, same size, same shape, same density, same quality, same purity, but you are paying more money. क्यों? Gold is the best hedge against inflation. So that is the thing. So I think comment section में प्रथमेश Kokate said this inflation into count. You were absolutely right, Prathamesh. So gold appreciate नहीं करता. तो अगर technically आप देखोगे, is something that gold is a bad investment, good investment? नहीं. It depends on your specific needs. But is gold an investment? No. Gold in the world of finance is an insurance because you are protected against inflation. That's it. That is it. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, now the last, okay, now this is the last thing, and this is our favorite, which most of us think, is that now I want to take real estate. And no, guys, मैं थोड़ा सा speed में जा रहा हूँ because I have to make sure that time is taken into account. But if you have any doubts, you can always ask me, right? Real estate versus stock market. So I'm going to compare to. Let's दोनों को compare कर लेते हैं. अब प्रॉपर्टी. लेट्स बी ऑनेस्ट, हम सबकी फैमिलीज ने प्रॉपर्टी में बहुत पैसा कमाया है, ठीक है. एंड इफ यू हैव बीन ओनिंग अ हाउस फॉर द पास्ट 30 years, you have earned a lot of money. Not you, basically your family. You have seen a lot of appreciation. This is with me also. This is with anyone in this country who owns even the smallest piece of land. ठीक है. सो अब क्या है कि हर को रियल एस्टेट बेस्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट है. दिस इज द जनरल थिंग आई गेट. अगेन वी नीड टू लॉजिकली क्वेश्चन इट. ठीक है. सो इफ आई टेक द पास्ट 30-year growth rate, right? Don't mind the handwriting. I know handwriting is pathetic, but yeah, that's that's something you'll have to deal with. Okay, real estate. अब रियल एस्टेट में 30 ग्रोथ रेट ले लो, लेट्स टेक अराउंड, देयर इज नो ऑफिशियल index for real estate in India, unfortunately, as of now at least. So let's take it to be 12%. Actually, it's 10%, but I'm getting the benefit advantage to real estate. Whereas in stock markets, the 30-year growth rate, 30-year growth rate क्या है? For the past consecutive 30 years, हर साल average में कितना appreciation हुआ है? Simple. That's 12% for real estate. For stock markets, that is 17%. ठीक है, इफ यू इन्वेस्ट इन इंडेक्स एंड यू री इन्वेस्ट द डिविडेंड्स, अगर इंडेक्स नहीं पता क्या है, डिविडेंड्स नहीं पता क्या है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मैं बाद में आपको समझा दूंगा, अभी इस पे फोकस। अब आप किसी भी सिचुएशन में देख लो, इज दैट स्टॉक मार्केट्स हैव ऑलवेज आउट परफॉर्म्ड द रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर। इसमें कुछ कंपैरिजन ही नहीं है, बिकॉज एनी कंपैरिजन यू डू you will have to keep some set of assumptions, but take anything, stock markets will always outperform real estate, it's a fact. But my question to you is that if stock markets have always outperformed real estate, why is that our families, we've earned massively from real estate, हम सबने बहुत पैसा कमाया, but stock markets में किसी ने पैसा नहीं कमाया? That is why stock market has a perception of a gamble. That is why when you tell your parents that's dad, I want to invest in stock markets, chances are he will get scared, right? So ऐसा क्यों है? Why do you think that is? सोचो, I want to generate that ounce of thought in you. अब इसके दो मेजर रीजंस जो मुझे सब आंसर करते हैं। सबसे पहला, हर्ष, स्टॉक मार्केट्स ना दोस्त बहुत रिस्की हैं, राइट? सेकेंड आर्ग्यूमेंट इज, हर्ष, देयर इज लैक ऑफ नॉलेज ऑफ स्टॉक मार्केट्स, नोबडी नोज अबाउट स्टॉक मार्केट्स। रियल एस्टेट सबको पता ही है, ठीक है। सबसे पहले लेट मी एड्रेस द रिस्क पार्ट। Any financial asset has risk attached to it. Who said real estate does not have risk? If you own real estate, if your family owns real estate, you have to maintain NOCs, ROCs, clearances, RWA की clearance, registry, stamp duty, your tax liability, everything. And अगर आप property own करते हो, you have to make sure कोई आपकी property में encroachment ना कर ले। ऐसा होता है, right? If somebody bought a flat, JP, Unitech, 10 साल हो गए उनको फ्लैट नहीं मिला, Amrapali, Supertech, how many builders I can give you? I live in Delhi NCR, so of course I can give you these examples, but this is pan India. So who says property does not have risk? It has an exponential risk to it. And if your family owns property, you'll see it's not easy to manage it by any means. Second point आते हैं, lack of knowledge. People tell me, Harsh, देखो यार, stock markets में ना बहुत lack of knowledge है, and that's why people prefer real estate. ठीक है, अब I'll give you my example. My बाबा, मैं चांदनी चौक का हूँ, ठीक है, तो my 4 generations have been living in चांदनी चौक, तो मैं वही stereotypical चांदनी चौक का बनिया ही हूँ जिसकी फैमिली में baldness and diabetes runs. Okay, that's not the point. But the point what I'm trying to make is that my baba, my grandfather, in 1950s and 1960s, his business did not do well. So he could not afford a place in Chandni Chowk. And that time Chandni Chowk was like the posh area if you understand the geography of Delhi. So he bought a plot in New Friends Colony. उस समय न्यू फ्रेंड्स कॉलोनी 1950s and 60s में जंगल मेरे लोग उस समय बाबा बोलते थे, अरे शाम कहाँ जंगलों में प्लॉट ले लिया यार, आदिवासी हो क्या, ये सब बातें होती थी। Now so many decades later, if you know the geography of Delhi, New Friends Colony comes in South Delhi and it is the posh area, right? So property prices तो बहुत ज़्यादा escalate कर गई हैं। Now the thing is, did my Baba know about this? Did my Baba could have he proceed कि यार नहीं New Friends Colony नहीं, 90% केसेस में यही हुआ है। जिसके पास भी रियल एस्टेट है ना, our parents or ancestors bought that plot in the outskirts of that city. अब वो पॉश हो गया है। If you agree with me, right, say agree in the comment box कि ये जो फैक्ट है। तो lack of knowledge किसी को रियल एस्टेट में भी नहीं है। Plots and houses and flats are bought mainly because of necessity. तो lack of knowledge का भी पार्ट हटा दो। So अगर lack of knowledge भी नहीं है, risk भी नहीं है, so why do people earn more in real estate, not in stock markets? Well, to put it short and quick, is that the answer why people own real estate is because people don't sell it. पिछले 5 साल से रियल एस्टेट प्रॉपर्टी अच्छा नहीं करी कि आपने अपनी सारी प्रॉपर्टी घर उठा के बेच दिया, प्रॉपर्टी बेच दिया आपने, नहीं। एंड सेलिंग एंड बाइंग रियल एस्टेट आसान नहीं है, 1-1.5 महीने का काम है, 5-6% ट्रांजैक्शन कॉस्ट है, बायर सेलर ढूंढना पड़ेगा जो आपकी टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस एग्री करे, it's a very tedious task. But that is the problem in stock markets, that people sell immediately. खुद सोचो, राकेश झुंझुनवाला, he bought the stock of Titan, 3 रुपए का स्टॉक लिया in 2002, average price was 3 rupees. Today it is trading at 1400, 1500. अब was Rakesh Jhunjhunwala the only person who bought the stock of Titan at 2002? नहीं, लाखों ने लिया होगा ना, बट द प्रॉब्लम क्या थी, उन सब ने बेच दिया. And if you know any investor, if you talk to your, it's very important for you to talk to your parents and talk to people whether they have a good experience or bad experience. Ask them why. You will see it for a fact that 90% of the investors will have stocks on their portfolio जो बहुत ऊपर चले गए हैं, but वो 2-2 रुपए प्रॉफिट में बेच देते हैं. That is the problem. If you have that real estate mentality in stock markets, buddy, you are in the Forbes 50 richest men in the world. That is the power of stock markets. And what do you need to choose a good company? Common sense. To quote Howard Marks, numbers don't work in stock markets. It's actually what works is common sense, right? To give you a very simple example, our parents and our grandparents knew that technology and IT was the future. Did they invest in it? No. Standing here today, you know, electrical vehicles, automobile, renewable energy, that is the future. Are you even thinking about it? नहीं. हम सबके घर पे ना वो बात होती है, जैसे मेरे घर तो होती है, टेल मी अगर आपके घर पे होती है, मेरे घर पे होती है, काश बाबा वहां प्लॉट खरीद लेते, या वो बेचते नहीं, या वो आज तो किधर होते हैं. मतलब आई वुड हैव बीन गिविंग दिस सेशन फ्रॉम मैनहट्टन, आई थिंक, राइट, इफ दैट वाज द सिचुएशन, right? And I'm sure this is in every person's family that we keep cursing up, not cursing is a very harsh word, I would say. We keep blaming our parents and keep getting irritated, yeah, gosh, my grandfather did this or that. My entire objective is that your grandchildren should not say this about you, because then, my friend, that will be a sad day. अभी भी बहुत opportunity आपके पास है. Take stock markets very seriously. It's very simple. Connect with the audiences, connect with people who are in stock markets. Ask your parents, and again, don't trade in it, because trading needs a lot of practice. It needs for you to get educated in this line. Okay? So yeah, that was it. So to invest in long term, what is the knowledge you need? Absolutely zero. But to invest in shorter period of time, you need more knowledge. तो वही है, स्टॉक मार्केट लाइक अ कार. अगर मैं अपनी सिविक चला रहा हूँ और मुझे आती नहीं है, मैंने गाड़ी भेड़ दी, I've pushed the accident and I've bumped into an accident. Is it Honda's fault? No, it's my fault. Stock market is like a car. It depends how you drive it, and you should know how to drive it first of all, right? So start with long-term investing. Connect with your parents, and remember this: is that investing and trading in stock markets is not an option for you for survival, basically, because the bank interest is like this. And second is that make sure that your grandchildren don't say this about you कि काश आप वहाँ पैसे डाल देते. Well, that was it for today, and I passed the stage to the host. And if there are any questions, and I think I finished on time, if there are any questions, so feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, sir, for bestowing us with such crucial knowledge. We all have learned great deal from your talk. Now, I would request the audience to put forth their questions in the comment section, and the speaker will be answering to them. So, here we have the first question. How should a new young investor approach equity markets for wealth creation?
Okay, ठीक है. अब देखो, for new investor it can get very complicated because there's so many things and options कि it gets very confusing, right? So basic क्या है? सबसे पहला, you should connect with someone who knows about stock markets, be it your family or friends. Don't get opinionated कि markets खराब है, गंदा है. नहीं, logically question करो. And yeah, और एक मेरे YouTube पे मैंने एक वीडियो बनाई है based on stock markets. So check if that helps you out. You can go YouTube it. है ना, वैसे स्टार्ट करो. बट मेन थिंग इज टू सराउंड योरसेल्फ विद इन्वेस्टर्स और समवन हु नोज अबाउट स्टॉक मार्केट्स हु कैन गिव यू द राइट गाइडेंस. वो बहुत जरूरी है.
Thank you so much, sir. We have the second question. Is cryptocurrency illegal right now? And what are its advantages and disadvantages?
Okay, so cryptocurrency is not illegal at all. RBI tried the banks not to help the cryptocurrency, but Supreme Court has given a law against it. So I would say it's in a gray area. It's not completely black or white. It's a gray area. And I will never, I have not invested in cryptocurrency, and I will never. सबसे पहली चीज, my expertise is in equities and derivatives. तो वही मेरी मोहब्बत है. तो इसलिए I don't know about currency much, so I'm not expert in that. But why I would not even look into cryptocurrency, because it's a currency. It is not an investment. It is not a liability. It is a currency. वो अलग ही चीज है. So currency दो definition: store of value, medium of exchange. Is crypto the store of value right now? बिल्कुल भी नहीं. The prices are rising and down every day. Second, medium exchange. Is crypto the medium exchange? I would say slowly it is, but abhi to koi nahi bujta. So what is happening in crypto right now is that it's only speculation. So if you want to speculate, that's great. It's a democratic country. You can do whatever you want, but you should know that you're speculating. And investing जैसी चीज तो technically possible ही नहीं है because it's a currency. So that is my take on it. So yeah.
So we have another question. They say that stock market is a sea of money. But according to you, how and when should a person begin and when to drop it?
Yeah, stock market is that tool in your hand that can take you to the rich class, right? I'm not telling you to make stock markets your career. What I'm telling you is that you should invest small amounts in it. So there's nothing to enter and exit. ठीक है? So होता क्या कि this is the case I recently got. I think जो मेरी अभी recent TEDx talk उसमें I talked about this case. The case was that there was a 65-year-old gentleman who was the क्या कहते हैं ex CEO or some position like that, very high position like that. ठीक है? 65-year-old gentleman who's working was in a government body. When the job is finished, he has nothing with him. Why? Because he never invested, he never did anything. So the point is that doing jobs is not, it's not bad. It's your choice, and again, it's completely okay. I think आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा बोलते हैं, but the कब तक will you earn and strive to work for your companies? You need to take care of your financial health, and that is only through stock markets. If you keep your money in banks, and if you think that you're too cool to think about this, or you don't have time, unfortunately, you will regret it heavily later. Coming my age, you can, the best thing is I think I'm 28 right now. So if you ask anyone who's around 26, 27, your bhaiyas, your friends or family friends, cousins, whatever, they'll tell you, if they are honest with you, they'll actually tell you what happens when you don't invest. And you're at the right age. So if you start investing right now, I would say 30 years from now, the world would be at your feet, no matter whatever career you choose. Financial distress is something that you would never have to face. So yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. We have another question for you. What are the filters for selecting good stocks for long term?
Yeah, this is again I need more time to explain you this. I won't be able to help you out immediately, but I would say just stick to the fundamentals, right? Just make sure, to put it even more simple words, to quote Peter Lynch, is that choose a company that is solving a problem for the future. जैसे to give a very simple example, I live in Delhi. अब जब दिल्ली में मेट्रो बन रही थी, I was in 8th or 9th standard. So everyone was fed up of it. सब बोलते थे यार क्या जरूरत है मेट्रो की, इतने गड्ढे खोद दिए हैं, ट्रैफिक जैम्स हो रहे हैं. उस समय if I asked a Delhiite, no, कि sir, do you think metro is necessary? He would say नहीं, highways बना दो, buses और कर दो. Now if you ask a Delhiite if a metro is necessary, of course it is. We can't operate without it. So to quote Henry Ford, if you ask people what they want, they'll not say cars, they'll say faster horses. So as an investor, you need to identify which company is solving that problem, which company is striving for that thing. And if you sorted that out, you have got yourself a multi-bagger with yourself, be it Rakesh Jhunjhunwala with Titan, be it Warren Buffett with Coke, be it George Soros with the dollar pound when he shot it. So yeah, so basically वो ये है, बहुत simple तरीके में आपको करना है क्योंकि I don't have much time, to just find a company that is solving a problem for the future. And if you found that company, you've made it.
Thank you so much, sir. One more question to go. Should we invest at the current high valuations?
Okay, so markets, are they overpriced? They're extremely overpriced, and there's no arguments about that. But definitely investing should be there, right? So suppose if, let's assume, I'm assuming that you're putting 10K every month aside to invest. 10K go gaya, so whatever amount that is, 500, 1K, 2K, whatever you're comfortable with. That amount, if you're investing for the ultra long term, that is above 5 years, 10 years, तब तो फर्क नहीं पड़ता, because ultimately the graph will go up and these prices are irrelevant. But if you're investing for, let's say, less than 2 to 3 years, that is the time I would say you can think again if you want to invest in stock markets, and you need to do a little more study to invest in the right stocks. And if you're trading, if you're doing intraday short-term trading, तो overprice, underprice doesn't matter, because to a trader, what matters to me is only volatility. जब तक markets volatile है, तब तक a trader can pocket profits. So one, as a trader, needs to make sure that he sticks to his strategy, sticks to the stop loss and target. And yeah, so it depends. So if you're ultra long investor, invest kar do. If you're an investor for less than more than 1 year to less than 5 years, then you should think about it. If you're a trader, it's completely fine. Overpriced, underpriced, doesn't matter.
Thank you, sir. One last
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
How to invest in gold? Is physical gold a good decision?
Okay, how to invest in gold? Excellent question. Actually, I had to cover this. Okay, सबसे पहली चीज, gold jewelry is not an investment, right? I've tried to explain this to my mom and Nani several times, but वो तो नहीं समझने वाले, because of course they have their things. But gold jewelry is not an investment. Jewelry is an accessory, treated as an accessory, because when you go to sell it, chances of it becoming pure, if it being pure or being उसके making charges, chances है कि ज़्यादा कुछ आपको मिलने वाला है नहीं. There was ancestral jewelry in my bua's family. It was supposed to be a purani jewelry hai, and you know those pieces, and it came out to be that it's not even gold. So it can happen with anyone. So if you want to invest in gold, invest in liquid gold. You can invest in sovereign gold bonds, government ka bonds hote hain. Otherwise, you can invest in gold ETFs, gold Bs. So you need to have a demat account. Uske through you can start investing. If you don't have a demat account, don't open it. If your father has, mother has, your sibling has, or anyone friend has, try it with them, and then when you feel confident, you can open your own demat account in your name, and then you can start. But the very important factor again, please be sure that you are talking to your parents, because your parents are the only two people who actually care about you, right? So please be sure that you tell them everything.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your knowledge today. Now we would like to introduce to you our next topic, YouTube University. Hit the bell and enroll now. The micro to macro learning platform providing embracing content in just a click. World is leading towards digital learning now. Learning skills online to developing your app, anything and everything can be learned or taught. And YouTube is contributing significantly towards digital learning. So the question is, can traditional learning be replaced? Will YouTube be the new online university?
I am sorry to interrupt you, Diksha. You are on mute.
Sorry. I'm extremely sorry for the malfunction. Well, I'd like to thank Harsh sir for sharing us knowledge. Now, moving forward, we would like to introduce to you our next topic, YouTube University. Hit the bell and enroll now. The micro to macro learning platform providing embracing content in just a click. World is leading towards digital learning now. Learning skills online to developing your app, anything and everything can be learned or taught. And YouTube is contributing significantly towards digital learning. So the question is, can traditional learning be replaced? Will YouTube be the new online university?
And to talk about this topic, we have got the perfect person. He is an eminent psychologist, futurist, TED speaker, advisor to government, best-selling author, and an innovator. He did doctorate in psychology from the University of Washington. He has been lately adjudged as one of the top 24 policymakers of India by leading daily New Indian Express. He has been bestowed the New York Times Da Vinci Innovator title for his innovations in social education to help uplift the disadvantaged. He advises the Government of India on policy issues and innovations in education, startups, and youth affairs. He's been known worldwide as the Think Professor for his art of thinking. His innovation Think curriculum, for which he has been awarded an honorary doctorate by Columbia University, fosters thinking in learning and has been funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. His 1,432 lectures, seminars, and workshops till date in 76 countries of the world have received rave reviews for their effectivity and simplicity. With immense honor, we introduce to you Dr. Jawahar Surisetti. We hand over to you, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Good evening to all. Not as the advisor to the government, I wish to speak to you as another co-learner and I'll share my experiences instead of lecturing you. In the post-COVID era, this question is very relevant, whether physical learning will be replaced by digital learning or something like that. And the questions that have been posed to me is, what is the government's role in this? Second is, how will YouTube be in future in terms of digital learning? And third is, what do you see is the future of physical learning? Let's put all questions together and try to answer most of them. So as far as the government is concerned, we've tried to regulate the digital space to a great extent till now. But with the pandemic, everything went haywire. Schools were closed. Children were able to access only digital content because they were locked down in their homes. And education became the biggest sufferer as far as schools and colleges were concerned. So the government thought it best that we should free the shackles that they had put on digital education. And that is a reflection of what you see in National Education Policy 2020, one of the most visionary documents that you have in Free India, in which the student is at the center of the policy. Not just the student, technology is at the center of the policy, which the government has been averse to doing till now. Technology was not a forte of the government. But 2014, when Narendra Modi stepped in as the Prime Minister of India, he brought in Digital India, Startup India, and all those things. Then the digital wave caught on. So even before the COVID had stuck, we were digitally more aware than we were earlier, including the government. I am saying this with great authority because the government was not very comfortable with technology, nor were they very receptive to the voices of the youth who were saying that technology is the in thing for future. So the government suddenly woke up and said that if digital is the only solution to people locked down at home, whether it is work or education, then why should we not look at it? And that is the reason why National Education Policy has a separate chapter on technology. And when we say a separate chapter on technology, it is not just the written word. They have said that we can have 100 universities in India giving online courses, the top 100 universities in NIRF ranking. We also can have on the platform which is known as NERF, the e-courses which are free for everybody. The reason being is that there is a huge digital divide in India, which again the pandemic has shown. There are a lot of children who are able to attend online schools. There is also a huge chunk of children in rural areas in government schools who are not able to attend anything. This mirror was shown to us by the virus which is known as corona. And this mirror, after I saw, the picture was very dangerous, that only 50% of students were able to access education. And that is the reason why technology forms a very inherent part of all policy making henceforth. This is what the government has done. Let's look at the 150 million students of India, which is as big as a country. In India, we have this luxury of having 150 million school students, and any country would not be able to boast of such a population. If we are to look at this 150 million students, where does the opportunity lie? The opportunity lies in that 60% of these students are willing to pay a reasonable amount for the digital learning. So, one, that I'll tell you one small this thing. I in my life have not been to school up to 12th. The only learning that we have learned, you see my gray hair and you will understand that mobiles were non-existent then. But my learning has happened in the cinema halls. So if I have learned my ABCD, I have learned it, you can say digitally, although it was not digital then, movies. But I saw Dawn and learned DON. So in a way, the school's absence in the COVID situation was similar to my life when I was absent from school because I was not able to go to school. So similarly now, the situation is that, and there are a lot of experiments happening in this way, and YouTube has also helped us a lot in. So one Jaipur-based Wi-Fi study, which is the largest YouTube education channel with 10.7 million subscribers. You can understand that no school, no group of schools will be able to have this kind of reach, which one Jaipur-based Wi-Fi study channel has. And you can understand the reach that we are able to reach out when we talk of this kind of ventures, which are digital in nature. And YouTube alone as a platform is able to reach out to this many million of children. It's a huge, and that too free of cost. So although there are some new features that the YouTube is trying to put up, which one is membership. So in any of you students who want to put up some e-courses on the platform and give it to school students, you can charge a membership fees for that. So membership is something that YouTube has come up with. There is also something in future that is going to come, which is going to a great extent replace televisions, where customized based on your liking and the machine learning, the YouTube is going to throw programs to you of 24 hours, and you can program that what you want to see in 24 hours. So it will replace the TV. You can even play this on TV if you want to. So YouTube TV is something which will be different for, so mother can see a different content, the child can see a different content. You can lock content which you don't want your child to see. So that is the future which I am seeing. All these TV satellite channels will have to take a back seat. I think even TV channels will have their presence on YouTube, which will be the way forward. This is something that I am seeing. The second is that 10 years ago, the internet connectivity in metros and larger cities was very good. And that is the reason why the reach was fantastic there. But now we see that 50% of the connectivity is now in smaller tier 2, tier 3 cities. And post-pandemic, the government is also saying that we'll reach out to another 1.5 lakh gram panchayats to be able to see that children are able to get digital education. Now, there is something that might be very interesting for all of us to know, that it does not replace the age-old physical learning. It can be hybrid in future also. But the best part is that for Shala Tyagi, which we call them, or school dropouts like me, they can be able to access content better through YouTube, because YouTube till now has been something which is supplementary to our learning systems. That is, my teacher teaches me something, I go to YouTube if I have not understood and try to learn that, whether it is in school or college. It also is a voluntary form of learning. But now the stage is set for it to come to the schools or colleges and become a very formal part of our learning systems. I'll give you an example. Like the problem with our generation, which was able to thwart any possibilities of digital learning coming into the space, education space, saying that nahi, you cannot replace the teacher. Teacher is sacrosanct. आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. इस वजह से digital learning or schools or teachers were not very proficient in the digital space. But come pandemic, teachers were forced to learn. But हमने क्या कर दिया कि we have tried to create a dichotomy. Student says, I want to access the laptops, mobile to the extent that he or she wants to. मैं as a person from the previous generation would say, नहीं यार laptop मत करो, mobile मत करो, over कर रहे हो तुम लोग, and there is a huge resistance from the parents. But the problem is that JEE exam digital होता है, CAT का exam digital होता है, मेजर कॉलेजेस के एंट्रेंस एग्जाम्स डिजिटल होते हैं, आईबी का बोर्ड एग्जाम डिजिटल होता है. हाँ, तो when you are saying please don't access your digital devices to the extent you should access, then the child asks, मुझे तो एग्जाम उसमें देना है, आप मुझे अभी क्यों रोक रहे हो? प्रैक्टिस तो मुझे करना चाहिए, otherwise I'll be laggard when it comes to. So this dichotomy the previous generation has not understood. It is only the pandemic which has woken up all the parents and said इसके अलावा और कोई solution दिख नहीं रहा है. So this is one thing, that this is a wake up call that digital learning is here to stay. Yes, in the next stage it is going to be only hybrid. So you will have both the teacher as well as the digital content both. But in future there is a possibility that a huge amount of people will go online and skip classes. So if we are saying today flipped classrooms, then flipped classrooms might become the future. That means you don't go to a classroom if you don't want today. So there is no attendance, nothing. How much is your learning outcome should be the only thing that we measure, and not your attendance and marks based on attendance, or marks based on your handwriting, or marks based on your discipline in classroom. These are things which are supposed to be sacrosanct with the current generation of teachers, but I don't think with the digital learning coming in, it's only the learning outcomes, how much you have learned, how much you have understood, how much you have applied, is something that is going to matter. I will also try to come up with, like CBSE has come up with an online teacher training mode, in which we have seen around 28 courses for teachers, because the national education policy is very techno-friendly, but our teachers are not. And CBSE understands this, that by the time in 2022, we have the national education policy in place, the teachers will not be ready to apply. And if the teachers are not ready to apply this, then national education policy is bound to fail. क्योंकि कागज में वो अच्छा लगता है, but when you apply it, and if the applier or carrier is not ready for it, then it is bound to fail. ये पहले हमने देखा हुआ है बहुत सी policies fail होते हुए. So I think one that the current generation of young boys and girls have a thinking ability which our generation of older people usually try and diminish. EdTechs में भी I meet a lot of people in the EdTech scenario and in Startup India. Most of them tell that our parents say that go for a cushy job instead of a startup, because it's a hard way up. So if you are looking for an EdTech, like for example, I'll take two names, and they have done fantastic work and they are doing also. Suno Kahani is one EdTech which is meant for blind people. It adds in the lectures emotion. For a blind person or a visually impaired person, it is very difficult to understand the emotion that the teacher is saying. So the braille is also devoid of emotion. So now what they have done is, since the ears are all right in a visually impaired person, they have put in emotion into it, and that's how they have tried to sort out a problem. What a beautiful idea for a group of people who are neglected of emotions. So they have tried to put in emotions, and Suno Kahani is a very cheap 2,000 rupee device which they are which visually impaired children can take, the schools can take, the government can take, and listen to all lessons. They are now working on open schools also, but they are available for CBSE and Rajasthan board as of now. But it's so something like this. Let's say my child comes and says that I want to make Suno Kahani, it's an EdTech for blind children, and I discourage, don't do it. I would have not let that seed of going to the visually impaired children, helping them, not come to light because of my age-old thinking. So one, the thinking of you, the generation that is currently there, is any day better than most of us, whether it is socially, whether it is in terms of the responsibility that they hold, and in terms of the commercial issues. We are only conditioned for jobs or security of our life and stability of our life. I would prefer maybe a government job to a private job because it is more stable. This thought process is now over. And with this thought process going out of the window, digital learning comes in from the window with the current generation. The second EdTech that I would like to mention, again, which shows the thought process of young boys and girls like you, and I would comment that I am almost, I think, mentoring startups from IIM Bangalore, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Chennai, and many more startup incubators from the state governments. So I know for that I am living with all of you all the time. Most of the time I don't stay with people of my age. So what you are thinking is rubbing off on me is I am becoming more youthful in thinking. And that's something that I don't want to stop you from doing because of my age-old theories. The second one is known as the Knowledge Premier League. It is inspired from the Indian Premier League or IPL. And what the girl says, she's from IIT Mumbai. She says that we want to give a platform where fun and learning can come together. So any of you who want to be Premier League owners, you can own the league, you can name it, you can do your quizzes, you can do any chapter of your class in a fun way. And then you can ask the children to pay, you can give it for free, do whatever you want. But the platform of Premier League is given to you, you own, and they don't charge anything for it. In case you are charging something from the children, a cut of that 8%, I think, goes to the Premier League owners. So now again, and national education policy says that you should have fun, entertainment, and learning together. So if you are wanting to do fun, entertainment, and learning together, let's put a scenario. Maybe I have, because I have not gone to school, is the reason why I'm getting this idea. But sports integrated physics, let's say, it might be crazy to you, but let me put it this way: that when I am learning my Newton's law of motion, the teacher comes, put on the boards, V is equal to U plus AT, V is final velocity, U is this, A is acceleration, T is time. And this is how we have been learning. Suppose I take you to the cricket ground with 2 timers and I put a ball, the timer goes on, and the ball, when it lands on the pitch, the timer goes off. So you know the time period when the ball has taken to reach certain the distance. So now you are able to calculate the initial velocity is 0, final velocity I will find out, time taken is given by the timers, and acceleration is you can find out. So if you teach physics on the ground, how beautiful will that be? And if you teach them, let's say I don't have a ground like in a government school, at least I can replicate the ground on a virtual platform or a digital platform and show that this is how. And there are some crocodile labs, etc., which are digital labs where 6th class onwards or 5th class onwards, if a child says, I want to take H2SO4 and some acid and some base and then mix together to create a salt, H2SO4 concentrated might burn. So children might be at risk. So digital platforms or digital labs give you that luxury that if you put 2 wrong things together, it will blast. And you will know that I should not physically mix these 2 things together. So there are a lot of things that you can do when you are doing with digital learning instead of resistance. Ki ye nahi hona chahiye. I profess that YouTube and all digital platforms. Why just YouTube? YouTube is the biggest platform, but otherwise also I profess that there is going to be a huge contribution of these platforms. The government is aware of it now. We are not laggards as government. With Narendra Modi, he is digitally very active. We know that things are going to go right. And I am open to any questions instead of going for monologue.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like the audience for any doubts or questions regarding the topic and type them in the chat box. Few will be answered by the speaker.
Okay, somebody says that do you think digital learning can preserve the quality of learning same as classroom teaching? So as of now, I think it is both sides. If the teacher is very good, you can't replace from digital learning. But the other flip side of this argument is that suppose your teacher is not very good in the classroom, but you are stuck with a teacher. It is as though you are married and stuck to your wife. If you are like that, then you will look at external sources to supplement any lack of knowledge that you are gaining in the classroom. So in that case, the quality of learning will improve from digital platforms. You will get the best of teachers available on digital platforms, which you cannot get in your classrooms. So I think there are both sides to the coin. Any questions from your side?
So the next question for you is, how should schools and colleges go with the strategy of offline plus online learning since the COVID cases are rising again?
Okay, so I have said this, hybrid learning is here to stay. So what we can do is, the government is planning something like this, that students come on alternate days because we do not have the number of infrastructure that we have in our schools and colleges is based on the attendance or strength. So since all of them come together, then social distancing is not possible. So what we want to do is 3 days, which is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So the 3 days each student gets to come to college. So half the strength will be there in the college or school, and the rest of the 3 days he goes with online. So that is how hybrid is going to happen in future. So anybody who is attending school for 3 days, the rest of the 3 days he is online.
Thank you, sir. Next question for you is, what do you think about online education? Like, does it improve productivity of student, or it will have a negative impact on them?
See, as far as the Indian milieu is concerned, थोड़ा सा हम लोग को काम चोरी की आदत है, and this applies to students also. So without the pressure of the teacher or the danda or the homework or something like that, the student does not perform to the extent he or she. There are some self-motivated students definitely, but online education without the parents' intervention when the child is at home, or without a mentor's intervention when the child is at school, is not going to work to the extent the normal education works. So I think you need a mentor, whether it is in the form of a parent or a teacher, to be able to get the best out of the student if you want better results. Second is, there is a lack of emotion in the online education, because human eye and human brain is used to a 3D visual. So my mother is the first person who's my teacher, and who teaches me a lot of things in life. And most of that, what I have learned from my mother, are because of the emotion that the mother puts into the teaching that she gives. So the warmth of her hug or her pat on the back are some things that you will miss in online education, where as big as you are, you might, that emotion will be missing from online education. And that's the reason why a little pat on the back from the parent, even when online education is happening, is what is required for better results.
So next question for you, what if the digital learning skips the social life of students?
Social, I am not able to hear.
I'm sorry, sir. So what if the digital learning skips the social life of students?
Kills the social life, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So there are two things. Let's go to the pre-COVID era and understand that the major complaint that parents bring to me is that the child is sleeping late. And why he or she is sleeping late, even when COVID was not there, or even when it was not totally online learning, but students were late to go to bed, maybe 1 o'clock, midnight, whatever it is. Why was it happening? It was happening because they are addicted to their devices, whether it is the laptop or mobile. So digital learning is not the only reason which will kill the social lives. Their addiction to their devices, to watch things which are not digital learning per se, but other activities on digital platforms, might also have killed their social lives. And I am agreeing to the great extent that digital well-being is the next big thing that is going to happen in future. And it has been accelerated due to the COVID situation. So there are apps like Aprison, APPRISON, which helps parents, which helps offices to control the addiction of people by monitoring what they are doing in their hours, in the office hours or school hours or whatever hours, and trying to bring in corrective measures by suggesting some better option for what they are doing. So it tries to get negative behavior to positive behavior. It is Aprison, and then in the iOS platform there is something which is known as Forest. So digital well-being is going to be the next big thing, which will help us not to see that the child's social life is not killed. He gets enough time to play with his peer group instead of being a couch potato, study in groups, or maybe talk to the family. So there are incentives put in Aprison which say that family time you get this reward points, etc., etc. There are people working, but this is a big area, digital well-being or digital wellness or digital detox as it is called. In the West, it has caught on, but here it's still to catch on, but it's happening very fast.
Thank you, sir. Next question for you is, do you think digital learning will have the same amount of discipline like in classrooms?
Same amount of?
Discipline, like
Discipline.
in physical classrooms.
Okay, yes. So again, learning is not just teaching. So it might be curricular learning, it can be hobbies, it can be skill development, etc. Discipline from a teacher's perspective is different from the discipline from a student's perspective. So let's see both sides what happens. A teacher wants the student to simply keep quiet and listen in a class or perform in a class. The student thinks that he should be interactive in the class and participate. So this is a generation of students who want to interact with the teacher more than just a one-way learning. So if you are saying that a student is asking questions or a student is not able to be very attentive in an online class, the fault lies not completely with the student, but with also the teacher. If the teacher is, an online class is not as easy as an offline class or a physical class. The physical class, the fear of the teacher's access is very high. The emotion of the teacher in front of you is very high. Whereas in an online class, the teacher has to put in that extra emotion or extra fear or extra discipline so that the student is attracted to listen. So he or she cannot reach out to the student so that fear is instilled. So what they need to do is make the class more interesting. One thing is that teaching plus emotion is equal to learning. You take out the emotion from teaching, the discipline is going to be low. If there is an emotion, for all of you who have been to school, unlike me, if you have, you in your alumni meets have one favorite teacher. Why is that teacher one favorite? 10 teachers have taught you. Why is that teacher favorite? Because what she has taught or what he has done to you at school has emotionally connected to your heart and mind. And that is why he or she is the favorite. If there is a teacher like that, discipline is not going to be an issue in an online class. But mechanically, the way teachers come, teach and go without any passion, there is going to be an issue with discipline in online classes more so.
Next question for you, sir. Which do you think is the most effective way to judge learning? Is it standardized testing or personalized testing?
See, I would not put it this way. Now, if you are to judge me from my, I'll give you an example. So my mother was an illiterate, but since I was selling idlis and I was not able to study in school, so she felt that other 4 children are going to school, he should also learn. So being an illiterate, she used to first learn and then teach me on whichever time I found. Because 5:30 in the morning to 11:30 in the night was the time I used to wash the utensils and finish off. So I was not getting time on weekdays. So on Sunday, we used to find time. She used to teach me. I used to go for a movie also because that was my teacher. Now, I cut to the present. I was 42 years and we went for a movie with my children called Ghatotkach. It was an animated movie. And my mother had taught me Ghatotkach. So what I had learned was wrong. When I went to the movie, I saw, "Arey, yahan to Ghatotkach likha." I told my children. They said, "No, Dad, Ghatotkach is right. If you are saying Ghatotkach, you are wrong." Now, 2 things. If I start judging my mother on what she has taught me wrong, then I would be doing disservice to her because I have learned most of the things that she has taught me. One wrong thing I should not be able to judge. This is one. The second thing is, Florinda teacher in Kolkata. I was in the hotel management and I didn't know English properly. So in college, I didn't do school, but I did college. I gave private exams. So when I was doing in Kolkata, some of my friends were bullying me that he doesn't know English, how he has joined hotel management, etc., etc. So one lady with very short hair got up and she scolded those. What if he does not know English? So she said, do you want to learn English when those children had gone? I said, yes. She said, you should make the effort of coming to Park Street and I will give you 5 words daily. Next day you come and put them into sentences so that I understand that you have learned the exact meaning of those words and I'll give you bread butter. Whatever English I am speaking today is because of Florinda teacher. And how can I judge this learning is proper or not? I might have learned some wrong things. So what I am driving is, it is not good to judge learning. Learning disabilities are almost 50% of children have learning disabilities. Does not mean that I have to judge it. If there is a child with learning disabilities, which 50% of us have some learning disability or the other, that means the other sensory organs are very strong. This you can see when visually impaired children or deaf children, their other senses are very strong. So I think learning has to be in the form of outcomes. So I take out the outcomes, how much you have learned, and instead of judging, just see that those gaps are filled. So that word judge is not, we should say assess. I think assessment is the right word. We should assess.
So, a question for you. From not formally taking education to being an advisor to government now, can you tell us about your experiences and learnings throughout?
Okay, it's a very strange journey. See, I don't know how much time I have, but I'll try to keep it short. So the idli thing made me the think professor, and how I'll tell you. Because of no formal schooling, I was not conditioned to think that after A, B will come. So I was questioning, why does B come after A? Why does C come after B? And then I did a research also on that later in my life and found that actually it should not be A after B. There are words where B comes before A more often than A coming before B. So I tried to look at perspectives which are not normal. In Columbia University of New York, an example of what happened, there were 1,300 vice chancellors. And in the 1,300 vice chancellors, I asked a question. What do you teach in pre-K or KG1, KG2 in your schools? One of them said A to Z, 1 to 10. I said A to Z, 1 to 10 is fine. A to Z is also fine. But when you are teaching 1 to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is fine. But when it comes to 10, have you taught the 0? There was deathly silence in the hall. This was a question I asked because I was not going to school. I was able to think haphazard. So why have we not asked this question is because my parents have taught what they have been taught. My teachers have taught what they have been taught without thinking whether this is right or wrong. So today's child is not like that. You people are not like that. If my mother used to say that let's go to the temple, I would without any question hold her finger and go. But in your case, you will ask, what is the benefit of going to the temple or mosque or church? And that is why in the world we see that young people are not going to churches or mosques or temples. Parents come and ask me, why is this? The child asks, what is the logic and what is the benefit of going there? The same question that he asks when he does not go to school or college and says, what is the benefit of going to school? I can do everything online. What my teacher is telling is already there in the book or it's there on Google. Why should I go? If there is no logical answer to what you are doing or what you are feeding your children, they will go this way. So I appreciate that if you ask questions like this, then the world is going to go forward. If we don't ask questions and accept what has been taught by my parents, then the world is not going to go forward. There will be no social change. by asking questions right from the word go, because I have not gone to a school, the questioning became a very natural ability which is there in a child. And I keep asking questions, and I try to create answers on my own based on my own logic. That is the reason why I'm called the Think Professor. Some of them might think that I am crazy, but the work that I have done has forced Manmohan Singh government, when they had come to Obama to meet the president, the Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, asked Obama, can you give us some expertise in education that US has, that we can take back to India to help us? Obama smiled and said, one Indian is here who tells us how to teach our students, and you have come from India all the way to ask help from us. You should take help from him. And that is how I was introduced to India as the advisor of the government. That's the story. It's a long story cut short.
That was a very wonderful journey, sir. Next question for you. The role of art of thinking in daily life and why one should adopt it.
Okay. So art of thinking is something which I think you should identify better. When I go to a school, I feel bored. The teacher comes into the class or even the college and comes and expects that the child's brain or the student's brain is going to function the way I want it to function. But it does not. What happens? First period, Ganti Baja, social studies class, 40 minutes, social studies brain on. Then 40 minutes, Ganti Baja, social studies brain off, mathematics brain on. 40 minutes, Ganti Baja, so mathematics brain off, English brain off. Our brain is activated in different parts for different subjects. So linguistic skills are in a different part of the brain, mathematics skills are in a different part, scientific skills are in a different part of the brain. But we expect the child to be tortured like that, and that is the reason why art of thinking came into place. Because to get rid of this, how will I learn 40 minutes social studies and then switch to mathematics in the next 5 minutes? Is it possible? So students started going rote. So they started learning from the book what has been taught in the class without trying to understand too much of it. So we have our favorite subjects, we don't have our favorite subjects. Art of thinking is meant to activate the brain to start thinking when he or she is there in schools. For example, Samsung had took us to Silicon Valley. 8 of us, 8 innovators from across the world were taken to Silicon Valley. I was not a technological person, leave alone technological person. I was not out of school for most of the time. So when they took us and said that UN has given us a challenge to think, how will we solve the problem of no water or less water by 2022? This was in 2000. So all of them came up with big suggestions that seawater will recycle, will do that, will that. I said, I have a very non-technical solution, please understand. So it might sound dirty to you, but it's a fact. The fact is that in a day, every human being goes once for potty and 4 or 5 times for pissing. Each time he flushes, 5 liters of water goes down the drain. A piss requires lesser flush, a potty requires more flush. So I said, why should we not have 2 buttons in the flush? So when you shit, press the larger button, 5 liters goes. When you piss, press the smaller button, 2 liters goes. So every day, each person, I am saving 15 liters of water. So saving water is conserving water at no cost. Bringing water from the sea might be inevitable later, but it incurs a cost. This art of thinking that I am trying to say is simple solutions to life's problems that you should start thinking at school. Like, why not 0 to 9? Or whatever, any problem. Or how do I have a restaurant without food? Or anything, any question I can put. It might sound crazy to you. But until the brain is challenged to think something out of its past experience, you do not start thinking. And this is why I have said in assemblies, give me 5 minutes, I will activate the brain of the child so that it acts better during the day in school or college. This is what is art of thinking.
Thank you, sir. Next question for you is, according to you, how much time will it take for a student sitting in a village area to have access to a top university in Mumbai? And how should government plan for this?
Come again?
How much time, according to you, will it take for a student sitting in a village area to get access at a Mumbai university? And how should government plan for this?
Oh, have I lost you?
Hello, am I audible,
Yeah,
sir?
yeah. Tell me.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Repeat
are.
again. How much time will it take for a student sitting in a village to have access to a university in Mumbai? And how should government plan for this?
Okay. This is a fantastic question. For somebody like me, this is a very good opportunity. So what we are looking at is that 100 universities will offer online courses, irrespective of the cost, creed, and affordability. People should be able to access. But this is only the first stage. What we are looking at is that online universities from people who can give quality education is supposed to supplement education to 1.2 crore out of school, out of college students. Now, this is a huge target. So I am just flipping the questions that people in villages or people who do not have opportunities to go to Mumbai, Mumbai will come to them in future. So I don't know how soon this, but I think the way it is going, it should happen in the next 5 years. That instead of you going to Mumbai from a rural area, Mumbai will come to you, or some major universities will come to you at a very affordable price. There are some people working, which includes Geo, which is working on these. So there are some major philanthropists like Ajim Premji of Wipro, Ratan Tata, who are big time into working into these issues. They have huge amount of CSR funds, which they want to make use of reaching out to rural areas and providing them education from the top-notch institutions, not just from Mumbai, but from the world, and translate whatever is taught in languages unknown to them into 8 major languages in India. I think this is the right time. The question is being asked, and this is the right time. In the next 5 years, you'll see this happening.
Thank you, sir. That was all of the question and answers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we would like to ask you, do you have any feedback for us?
No. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. I am sorry that I am not able to give much time again, but it was fantastic. I wanted it to be interactive. The question answers did most of it.
Thank you so much, sir, for your compelling words. It was a privilege to have an erudite person like you. We all are really thankful to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Now, moving forward, we would like to introduce to you our last topic.
Prism of possibilities. An idea that is developed and put into action is more important than an idea that exists only as an idea. After the world got hit with global pandemic, job certainty is a primary concern. While pandemic has brought in new possibilities where young minds have their chance of their own boss and bring this opportunity to start new. Our speaker is surely going to inspire you.
Sir C.J. Kuruvilla George was the founding CEO of Startup Village, which was India's first public-private partnership technology business incubator. His vision led to the creation of Startup Village, which brought startups and entrepreneurships to widespread public discourse in the state of Kerala. with experience ranging from entrepreneurship, being a co-founder of MobMe, and management consulting at Deloitte PwC, to mentoring and speaking. His words have served as one of the strongest catalysts for today's youth to transform their ideas into possibilities in the state. He was one of the first recipients of Rajiv Circle Fellowship by Motwani Jadeja Family Foundation and was also invited as International Visitor Leadership Forum by the Department of State, USA. Recently, Sejo Sir has been selected as a member of Central Government's Expert Committee on Science and Technology Policy, India. Welcome, Sejo Sir. I would now request you to take over.
Dear audience, we would like to inform you that our speaker is facing a technical issue. He will be joining us in next 2 to 3 minutes. Please wait back with us.
Introducing to you our last speaker, Sir Sijo Kuruvilla George, was the founding CEO of Startup Village, which was the India's first public-private partnership technology business incubator. His vision led to the creation of Startup Village, which brought startups and entrepreneurship to widespread public discourse in the state of Kerala. With experience ranging from entrepreneurship, being a co-founder of MobMe, and management consulting at Deloitte PwC, to mentoring and speaking. His words have served as one of the strongest catalysts for today's youth to transform their ideas into possibilities in the state. He was one of the first recipients of Rajiv Circle Fellowship by Motwani Jadeja Family Foundation and was also invited as International Visitor Leadership Forum by the Department of State, USA. Recently, Sijo sir has been selected as a member of Central Government's Expert Committee on Science and Technology Policy, India. We welcome you, Sijo sir. I would now request you to take over.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Nice meeting and connecting with you all. So I believe in terms of the conversation today, we are likely to talk more about entrepreneurship and most likely why it is turning out to be a more appealing option for the youth of the country. From your brief, I did read specific lines about a stable job doesn't really excite the youngsters anymore. Maybe there's a question of why that happens and how that happens, but that's a different debate altogether. The fact of the matter is that it does speak to our aspirations to become an entrepreneur or to be your own boss or whatever entrepreneurship and startups means to each of you. So I think for the purpose of this particular conversation, for this particular talk, I'd probably speak a bit about my journey in terms of how I ended up being an entrepreneur, and specifically with respect to Startup Village, what we ended up doing there, and why we came about, why and how we came about doing Startup Village in the first place. So before I start that, just as a quick thing, I believe I have options to share the screen as well. Is my screen visible? Yes.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
So this is one
Yes,
of the by Taleb, one of the celebrated authors, and this is one of the quotes we had come across very early in our entrepreneurial journey as well. The monthly salary or the monthly paycheck is one of the most strongest addictions for you to get rid of, and I would say this is one of the only impediments stopping you from starting out on your own startup journey. And fortunately for us, a bunch of students in our engineering college days, we set out to do a startup of our own even before we even experienced that first paycheck. So our story started while in college. Mostly we were a group of friends who were part of the same basketball team. And I'm sure you also have your own hangout buddies in college in which you craft and conjure up various activities to do, be it putting together a dance performance for your college festival, or even putting together the event that you all actively and passionately being part of. In a similar manner, we figure out one or the other way to stay engaged and active. And maybe if I'm speaking to the student audience, they'll also probably entirely agree. And last year has been a boon in that regard. We'll figure out one or the other way to figure out a way to bunk classes as much as we can. And that's been one of our core motivations of trying to figure out what can be done to bunk more classes. But it also speaks to our innate need to also do interesting and cool stuff while we are still young and still in college. So this is pretty much where our story also started. Compounded to that, another, let's say, misery or facet of student life is where you need to figure out ways to generate some sort of pocket money for that extra outing, taking your girlfriend out, or even for some people it's buying a bike. It was definitely for one of my co-founders. His parents prevented him from, did not get him a bike, so he wanted to figure out a way to have a bike of his own. So the motivations might differ in terms of how you eventually translate it. By the end of the day, all of us want to do something more interesting, something we have been a part of actually taking shape, and that's the core of it. So there's a bunch of students who were part of the basketball team, mostly a bunch of friends who used to hang out a lot of time together. And we were figuring out various ways to generate pocket money. And I'm sure some in the group might have already tried their hand at either selling t-shirts or newspaper collections or whatnot. At the very minimal, you'd have at least brainstorm discussions, abhi yaar karte, bahut paisa kamayenge and everything. So we're also part of countless such meetups in terms of creating money. In fact, being in the basketball team was probably our first step into entrepreneurship, because when you play matches, good thing is, first of all, you're part of the college team. You are encouraged to go and legitimately bunk class and go and represent your college. So A, that is taken care of. And plus you also are given a TADA. I remember this one year where we as a team decided to gather up all our TADAs for the entire year and have one dhoom-dham bada khana party at the end of that particular year. So you have all these ways and means of trying to figure out ways to make life fun and interesting. And that's pretty much what we did during our startup journey as well, just as a bring to focus. So what happened was that in a similar manner, how you're coming to hear about me or Start a Village, in a similar manner, we happened to, I would always also have to be honest, over here, someone who came to campus, I did not hear that talk directly. I was somewhere playing basketball, happily in the court. But I happened to overhear this gentleman who came to college, who eventually became a mentor, talking about technology business incubators and how we can create our own companies. It seemed very far-fetched. It seemed very aspirational. This was about at least 10, 15 years back. So you can also imagine that the word startup was also not exactly spoken about as well. Just to give you a frame of reference, mobile phones are not exactly started penetrating campuses in that sense. For people who are aware of it, we had something called as a Nokia communicator, which was the only phone that is known to society at that point in time, which only very rich people used to carry in their arms like a brick. And outgoing calls are 35 rupees per minute and incoming calls are 27 rupees per minute. This is a very different time and age as far as mobiles were concerned. But we were also part of a very transitional phase of life, because when I joined first year of college, Nokia communicator was the mobile scenario in the country. But by the time I was graduating, India had about 100 million mobile connections, and everyone in campus had a phone. And by that time, SMS had gotten nearly free. It still took a few more years for it to be entirely free. We had something called a closed user group. So within a finite group, you could start putting together. So most of our conversations around, let's say, doing something interesting, making money, stumbled upon us to start trying various things in the mobile marketing space. Those were the times where movies were marketed using short codes and mobile keywords and everything. I'm not sure anyone in the room sitting here has ever sent a text message to any of those short codes. 56767, maybe short codes are not existing anymore. I'll give you a very interesting anecdote as well. Wherever I've spoken to an audience and asked whether people have sent a short code, which used to cost 3 rupees, 5 rupees per SMS or per call. And obviously there is an unequivocal shaking of head saying that no, not me, never. Interesting fact, we made most of our money by from people sending short codes. So there definitely seems to be a large pool of people who are actually using these services, just that it's very difficult to identify them. The first time these people started coming limelight and started proudly wearing that as a badge of honor is when caller ringback tone happens, hello tunes happened. That was the trends equivalent when we started out. So your caller tunes was exactly your brand identity in terms of what you signify and how you stand for. So this was the time in which we happened. So this spark or that knowledge or that information that we could also even probably set up our own company came via the small talk and a shout of knowledge with this one gentleman. And that role of the gentleman this gentleman called Dr. KCC Nair, who was heading the incubator at this point in time, the role he played in encouraging us, helping us and supporting us cannot be overstated. This gentleman is the brightest beacon of hope and joy I've ever come across in life. Every time we walk into his room, he opens by saying the sentences. I'll use a Malayalam, I'll translate also you. That's what he says in Malayalam, which literally translates to kids, you all are going to be successful in life. And that's his opening statement. Being part of very tough, rigorous college environments where almost every other day you end up hearing about why are you even studying. There is this one gentleman who always opens by saying that you're going to do well in life. And that was very refreshing. And this just goes on beyond that as well. We were one of the first student startups to come out of the state. So even for his incubator, a set of students coming in and saying that, hey, we would like to start a company was very new. Easiest thing for him could have been to say that, hey, we don't really support students, but and he could have turned us away, and we also probably would have gone back. But he took it upon himself to say that, hey, we never anticipated students will come forward, but you guys have come here, so let me see what I can do. And I'll again have to be honest, he asked us to submit a business plan. We did not have idea about head and clue tail about what a business plan is. By the time, thankfully, Google had already been around. So our finely honed skills of cut, copy, paste, and Googling came together. And we put together something in the span of 24 hours and submitted it to the incubator. Interestingly enough, 2 weeks down the line, we received a call, not because the plan was great, but the gentleman saw potential. He at least saw a bunch of kids trying to make a difference. So he said that your plan is crap, but you know what? Let me actually help you guys, put together a plan, work with me for the next 3 months. And that's how our entrepreneurial journey sort of started. To bring it into perspective, I also come from a typical middle-class family. And for those who are familiar with Kerala, we are a land node for sending people to Gulf particularly and to other places to actually work. There are memes floating around saying that you'll even find a Madlu in Moon as well. So that's a land. So in essence, it's a land not really known for entrepreneurship or startups. So it's not even something we had as an aspiration as a community, right? So and here we were, a bunch of us suddenly taking this transition. And I still remember the sentence. In fact, I had gotten placed through campus. I had actually joined Infosys for a brief period. In few months, I decided to quit and come back and join the team to do this full time. And I remember still having the coffee conversation with my co-founder, who was still in college. And we had a chat saying that, hey, either we'll end up making some money or we'll end up playing a lot more basketball. Either ways, it seemed like a win-win for us. So within 24 hours, we decided to put in the papers and come back and give it a try. And there were others who seemed that they believed a lot in us than we believed in ourselves. So why not give it a try? We were anyways young. And as a note to the audience in the room and also who are listening into, I think that is the spirit I would ideally want each of you to bring into your own lives when you pursue any project of your own, be it entrepreneurship. You should always be having fun. Worst case scenario, you should be having fun. Best case scenario, you make money. You may or may not make money. There are a lot of factors going around. But definitely, there will definitely be a lot of people willing to support you and guide you along the journey. And that is what you should remain open to. And that has been our particular journey as well. I can briefly talk about a small turning point for us, because early on when we started on our own, it still was a lot of, let's say, excitement for us. It was a fun thing to do, to tell our friends to stay cool, to remain cool. I would not even say that we were fully committed to the path of entrepreneurship, because we ourselves did not know exactly what it took, right? We were discovering things along the way and going with the flow. But sometime around, I would probably make an anecdote. It's where that belief switch flips or something like that. We had received a contract from one of the TV channels here in Kerala. So I don't know whether you still remember or have seen somewhere. You used to have these SMS stickers that used to scroll under the TV. We use it for voting for Indian Idol. But prior to that, we used to have the stickers floating around where people could text and it'll keep floating around. You had your I love yous and everything floating around in TV channels back in those days. It still costed 3 rupees, 5 rupees. A lot of people were testing it. So while most people won't admit to texting it. So that again was that. So we had an opportunity. So some of the mainstream channels had put this together, and we saw some of the other channels had not. So we walked into the office and asked them, hey, we've seen that you guys have not done it. We have a bunch of people in our team who can help put this together to you. And why don't you give us a chance? Interestingly for us, they did give a chance. It was a fun project. We somehow put this together, ran it for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, we actually got a contract. We were offered a contract. Any guesses from the audience what we ended up doing? We balked because we were afraid. Until then, it was a fun project. Until then, it was a trial project. Then when we were extending a contract, things started getting serious. And we started being afraid. We started being afraid whether we could do it, whether we have the ability to run this through. And the mentors we had at our incubator kept on asking us, please go ahead and take it. You'll figure it out. We'll help you and support you. Don't worry about it. We kept deliberating upon it for months. We had exams come in between. So between exams, after exams, we should keep deliberating whether we want to do it or not. By the end of the day, we finally firmed up our mind and said that, okay, let's go back and actually pick up the contract. And by the time we went to the organization, they said that, hey, we waited for you for a while, but since you didn't turn up, we ended up giving the contract to a company in Kuwait, which was personally a big moment for us because all along when we were growing up, we had this aspiration of actually working for companies in Gulf. And suddenly we had something sitting on in front of our hand in terms of actually doing it. And these are the contracts that we should be taking up and pursuing it forward. Now that was a very, very big shift in terms of saying that, hey, maybe what we're doing is actually worthwhile. Maybe we have the ability to figure it out. And it's post that we really started committing to working with clients and figuring solutions. It was an interesting learning journey, and we actually did it with most of our friends and batchmates from college. The first 100 people who worked with the company, almost everyone came through friends and friends of friends, juniors. That was so. It was an extended college campus in itself. We were based in Cochin. We were working in the mobile VAS space. And this story eventually led us to set up something called Startup Village, which is an incubator. But the heart of Startup Village is to carry this message forward and saying that, hey, if a bunch of us students from college could actually create something meaningful in terms of business and make it successful, it's because a lot of people actually came together. There was an opportunity, there was a platform like an incubator, and there were people to help and support you along the way. Most of us are first generation entrepreneurs. We don't have people in our families or our friend circles to understand how entrepreneurship works. So, but that doesn't mean that we don't have the ability or this can't be learned or this can't be done. And we don't have the aspiration to do that. So Startup Village was our effort to try and bring this together into a platform to actually encourage a lot more students to understand that there's an opportunity to actually start up on your own, to become job creators and wealth creators of your own and contribute to the country and to your own personal growth. So that was the heart of how these things came together. I'll probably just give one more brief comment as a message, and I can turn it over. So this, so yes, the salary and moving out is one of the ways in which you looked at it. So Startup Village was the entity which we created, which was our way of saying that, or our way of paying it back or contributing back. A lot of people had helped us. This was our way of saying that you could actually put together something. It was a nonprofit. We were based in Cochin. And subsequently, we received a lot of success. We received a lot of response from the youth, particularly in a state like Kerala, which is not really known for entrepreneurship. By the time in 2014, we were completing the first phase, we had close to 200 to 300 applications coming in on a month-on-month basis, most of it from students who were still in corporate. So we received massive response. But this is where it all started. This was our first startup where we did. It was in the mobile value-added services space. But this is a message I wanted to leave you with. All along, I was specifically talking about how we discovered various things along the way. So what we aspire to, be it a stable job, be it something, we working at a particular company, doing as our own, all our aspirations are a function of the knowledge that we have. But equally importantly, it's also a function of our ignorance. We didn't exactly know it was possible for students and all to create these amazing companies. And more we started talking and meeting such kinds of people, the belief started setting in. And my message to each one listening here would be to really invest in your exposure very early on in your career. While in college, there are always hundreds of things to learn. Don't wait to actually learn everything and then start it on your own. Start somewhere, start figuring out your own, but keep having good people who want to see you succeed, who can help and guide you along the way. It could be alumni, it could be your well-wishers, it could be your friends. Have a good support system to encourage you along the way. Back yourself, you're smart. You guys are doing an undergrad, postgrad. If you are smart enough to figure out your way to till here, I'm sure you're smart enough to figure out most things in life as well. So back yourself to do that. And this is where Twitter, Instagram, you want to research, that is pretty much where I am. And I'll leave it at that. Any specific questions or areas you want me to talk about, I'll be happy to take them. I have a dog. That's one who's contributing to the whole thing. Good things about the pandemic world is that you can be at the comfort of your homes, have your coffee. There's an excellent book by the WordPress founder called Years Without Pants. All of us are probably enjoying the year to the hill. I don't think you don't have to play basketball this year to bunk colleges. You just need to turn off your cameras or audios or whatever it required may be. So even more fascinating time to actually start creating all these things. The entire world is looking for more and more solutions and ways to figure out and move forward. And as Gen Z or Generation Alpha, or however you want to term yourself, you are always at an advantage because each time when technology changes, the younger generation always will have an advantage. You are more intuitive, users of technology. So I still read, I still prefer to read on my laptop. I'm still getting myself used to being very mobile first. While I'll intellectually know that it's going to be a mobile first world, it still is an afterthought. I get to platforms. I just recently discovered Trends, just to be honest. So it's only a week back, and I discovered it through my nephew and my niece. They are my guideposts in terms of figuring out most of these things. And that's where all of you sitting in the room, especially the youth of the country, have a lot more advantage in terms of creating these new knowledge and solutions. But significantly, what has also changed is the aspiration levels have changed. All of us are now part of a different India, so to speak, where we are trying to be, we are way more ambitious. We have a lot more faith and a confidence. If you see in the way our cricket teams are transported over the last 20, 30 years, that signals the confidence and the skill and the levels to which how we are also shaping. Guilty as charged, cricket was my first love. It still is a sport I ardently follow. It still is a great way for me also to enjoy the whole thing. But having said that, I'll just leave it here. Thanks to the team for organizing this. It always is a pleasure. In a non-pandemic world, probably would have loved to meet some of you in person. But in a post-pandemic world, I guess I can meet a lot more of you digitally. So it becomes a lot more easier to connect and take the conversation forward. Great to be here. Great to see so many happy, smiling, bright faces. Some of the success stories we talk about in India. So I remember this anecdote from Startup Village when we started out in 2012. We had to keep talking about the Zuckerbergs and the Facebooks of the world because we didn't have a lot of native stories to have access to. But by the time we were in 2014, we had the InmoBee starting out in India. We had the which was not Paytm at that point in time. We still had some stories from India. We could see that early signs of things happening. But one of the most personally heartening and satisfying moments was by the time we got to 2014, we could speak about stories of our own entrepreneurs who came from Startup Village, right? Which serves as the most brilliant inspiration because if your friend sitting right next on your table bends over, if she or he can do it, I don't have to tell you that you guys can do it. You can look at it, aap kar sakte ho, maybe kar sakte ho. Problem kya hai? So you will quickly latch on to that motivation, and that is what triggers. So what will trigger the entrepreneurial culture in your community, in your school, in your college, in your class, is one of you taking that initiative and showing that this can be done. And suddenly you'll start seeing that it triggers. It's like how Trends works, just that in a slightly more physical and non-linear sort of a way. And that is the way you start triggering the spirit and culture of entrepreneurship. That's a way in which you make belief more accessible. That is a way in which you make, knowledge more accessible. And that is a way in which you make support more accessible. Because next time when you're one of your batchmates or friends say that, hey, I would like to do entrepreneurship, you will turn back and say that, you can do it because I also did it. It's how it's going to be. As against when say that, hey, you have no idea how it's going to take. So figure out, start somewhere, and that's the only thing I do. Don't complicate it. You don't have to learn tons of books to start figuring it out. You guys are smart. I'm probably close to the same sentences my mentor and our mentor used to keep saying to us. You're all set up for success. You'll do amazingly well in life. Back yourself to the hilt and start trying out things. Thank you.
So we have few questions for you. And the first one is, how did you handle adversity and doubt?
Okay, so I saw Mansi typing it in, and Payal, thanks for the question. How did you handle adversity and doubt? Okay, so I'll have to probably start with an honest answer. When I was a lot more younger, we didn't really know what we were up against. So you don't really know whether it's a big adversity that you can't really surmount it. So I think the starry-eyed, hopeful nature of youth helps this. But I think the other part of the answer is very simple and straightforward. See, most of the things that you end up facing in terms of adversity or challenges, someone or the other has navigated before you. Maybe not in the exact way that you are experiencing. Some of the factors might be different, but more or less, there are a lot of others who have actually been there and done that. Your only thing that you need to do is to seek them out. So whenever we used to run into challenges, we were running into roadblocks, we don't know how to proceed, we would keep writing emails to any entrepreneur that we had access to. Some of them who we did not even have access to. But we could definitely source emails and start writing to them. Some write back, most don't. but most people want to help. Some write back after 6 emails. So people have an innate need to actually help out, and especially all the more so in the entrepreneurial community. So the best way to navigate adversity and doubt is to reach out to people who have been there and done that. And internet and the digital age has made it far easy for you to reach out to anyone sitting in the comfort of your rooms, or just a small click or a text. If email was 5 clicks, Twitter or Instagram is probably 1 click, or even just a picture away. So it's become incredibly easier for you to reach out to people, but that job you'll have to do, right? And people like people who take out time and effort. And that's what I said about my first instance in incubator, right? Our plan was shitty, but they liked the fact that we were putting in effort. So they wanted to give us a chance and back us. And that's what you should be backing yourself. Doubts, I think at some point you start learning to live with it. At some point, you'll always keep revisiting it. At some point, you'll develop your own skills and confidence to overcome it. But doubt also has the same cycle. When others start believing in you, when others start sharing your life experience, that's when it again starts triggering. And again, make a small anecdote. I know my dog is still happy, wanting to contribute a lot, but I'll survive through that and still continue. So we were operating, this again is our early MOPME years. We were operating in a small facility in the incubator. We had about 5 to 8 chairs. It was a small, 100, 200, 250 square feet sort of a room. And at some point, some amount of gloom was setting in. Are we doing the right thing? Are we on the right track? It's quite possible. And it's one of those rare instances where almost everyone will feel the same way, right? Typically in a group, especially again, a bunch of friends, even if you're down, someone else will say that, chalo party karte hai. So you will always have someone who's always upbeat and spirits, and you can take turns. But this is one of those rare moments, all of us were sort of going through that. And there's a gentleman called Chris Gopalakrishnan, popularly known as one of the co-founders of Infosys. He was the CEO of Infosys at a point in time. So Chris was one of those entrepreneurs we used to keep writing on a regular basis. He used to write back once in a while because he was the most known entrepreneur who came out of the state. So we identified it and we used to keep on writing emails to him. He did write back some time later, and there was a time in which he was visiting this particular park, the technology IT park, where we were situated. So while he was here, he wrote a line saying that he's in the park and he would love to come and pay us a visit. So he did come and visit us in that 200 square feet office. It was obviously a great inspiration. But the words that he said after that was immensely beneficial, because he mentioned that it took Infosys about 20 years to get to the point that where we are right now, right? You guys are way ahead in terms of where we are at the age that you were in. So you guys are off to a great start. You should totally grab and keep moving forward. Now, when you have people like him come back and put the perspective in saying that, hey, what you're trying the right track, that validation really helps you. It again goes back to the adversity bit of it. So have a circle of mentors or people who want to see you succeed, who have been there and done that, who can sort of guide you. Keep talking to them, keep writing to them, keep shameless doing that. That's why I also gave you my LinkedIn or whatever, Twitter or anything. I and most founders included may not be always been the best person to get back to immediately, but I can guarantee you this, almost everyone reads them and stays on top of it. So by the time you have your third or fourth message, you would have already created a persona saying that you're as someone who is making an effort, who's trying. And as a generation, as a country, I think all of us would love to see a lot more people stepping forward and helping out in as many ways as we all can. Yes, Payal, I hope that answers to some extent. Because entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much, sir.
I have Shashank.
We have the next question.
Go ahead, Payal.
How should an undergrad student do networking to succeed?
How do an undergrad student use networking to succeed? One of the easiest way to network. So obviously you can always think about LinkedIn and Twitter and everything to follow people and connect with people. One of the easiest or the most impactful way to network is to start talking about yourself or start writing about things that you care about. So you can pick any field of passion. It could be music, it could be something. So even if, let's say, I'll give you a simple anecdote or a simple example. Even if one of you end up pinging me, what is the first thing I'll end up doing? I'll probably check out your profile, which you will also do whenever you run into anybody that you run into. And then you look at what is the bio and the profile reads. And if it's a link to a blog or even your Instagram page, and if I go there, or in a LinkedIn, and if I go there and start seeing a lot of articles or anything that you've written, whatever you've posted, that will start giving you a sense of what you like and how you've been pursuing forward, right? So one way is say that I have to always go and keep meeting people. The other way, and that's how the digital world works, is allow people to discover you. So one of the best ways to start networking or networking for success or discovering people is to ensure that you start writing or posting about things that you do care about, right? And then you'll start attracting or at least start getting noticed, or even when you randomly meet someone, they will start noticing and probably some connections will start happening. So that's one of the best ways to start doing that. And networking for success, I would still say network for relationships. You can always write to people, request them for a Zoom call, and you can always exchange ideas. People generally love people to talk to, and especially as young students, if you're writing for guidance, try this as a challenge. You write to 10 people, I guarantee you at least one of them will actually write back and set up a call with you. Even if that person does not have a time, that person come back and be apologetic about it. I would really love to spend time, unfortunately, this scenario. So it becomes far more easier to pick a conversation. And when you pick a conversation, make sure you talk about either what your interests are, so that, and what I could probably do to actually make progress in that. That could be one way to pick about it. But everybody is trying to create a mark of their own. So similar to what that person will be researching about, you make sure you do some research about them. If there's some books or articles they have written, when you open a conversation, talk to them about that. When you write to them, talk to them that, hey, I read this article that you've written, or I love this particular work that you've done. That could be a great way. But having said that, at a tactical level, LinkedIn, Twitter works phenomenally well to connect to people and talk, forge a connection and a relationship with them. The way not to use LinkedIn is to keep sending requests and never talk to them, right? It feels good. It feels good to have a lot of people in connection, and that's probably where each of you will start and should start also. That's how you start getting your muscle. But irrespective number of connections you have on your LinkedIn or your Twitter, if you're able to converse with them, and Twitter makes it much more easier to converse with people. If you're able to exchange notes or ideas with them and able to engage in conversation, build a relationship with them, I think that's the best way to network. But the starting point would be if you could pick areas that you're interested in. And let me be absolutely, very, very, let's say, open about it. It can be any area that you like. It could be PUBG also, for all you care. I love board games. I spend most of my time, playing board games or discovering things about board games. If someone writes to me about a board game, and I would more than happy to, jump on a conversation with them and say, hey, you're also a board game enthusiast. Hey, great. So basically, you try to, strike connections with people. And that's how you probably take the network forward. But in terms of tools, I think you just do not have to look beyond Twitter and LinkedIn to get your game right.
Thank you so much, sir. We would now like to take up on the next question. Is entrepreneurship everybody's ball game?
It's a very, very good question. I think it's good that it's turning up. See, entrepreneurship is everyone's ball game. Typically, when you run across this question, people talk and think in terms of the skills framework. Is something that I can do. From a skill standpoint, I would absolutely go ahead and say a double thumbs up saying that's everybody's ball game. There's nothing rocket science about entrepreneurship. It is mostly a function of you figuring out things one at a time. It's mostly a function of you bringing together people and ideas together. So from a skill standpoint, I'm not saying it's going to be easy or super straightforward. There will be confusing times. That's by no means my submission. But in terms of skills framework, I'm saying it can be anybody's ball game, right? What I would probably say from an entrepreneurship standpoint, if it's anybody's ball game, it's a different lifestyle, right? Everything is a different lifestyle. At the end of the day, what you really come back to is on a day-to-day basis, whichever job or professional career you pick up, on a day-to-day basis, you're going to repeat a lot of things again and again and again. Be it talking to people, be it reading about stuff, working with people. And over a period of time, you would want to keep doing that with people and things that you like, right? And that's a different lifestyle that you start carving out for yourself. And entrepreneurship is again one such different lifestyle, right? And it takes 3 to 5 years to even start seeing the fruits of your success, whatever you're doing, whether it's been successful or not. it takes some amount of time. So people who have a slightly longer term view in terms of how they pursue project, because good things do take time. People who love exploring new ideas and working with some amount of ambiguity, but also creating on your own, I think entrepreneurship definitely suits them. And from that standpoint, as a lifestyle, if it doesn't exactly suit you, it's absolutely fine. Entrepreneurship is as much as a lifestyle as it is about wealth creation. You may or may not create wealth for yourself in the country, but you will always make a very, very consistent, enjoyable effort of pursuing it only when you also enjoy the lifestyle. So there's nothing especially. I remember one of my friends saying that, see, most entrepreneurial successes, overnight successes, took about 5 to 10 years in the making. It may not be their first startup, it could be their second startup. You pick up a lot of skills along the way. So this overnight successes take some amount of time. So finally, that few moments of glory may not exactly be what will keep you for the 3 to 5 years on a 24-hour cycle. Those are the lifestyle elements that come into picture. And the same question applies to any job in any industry that you pick up also. Because over a period of time, any industry, if you want to get to the top of the trade, it's going to take you 3 to 5 years. So people who have a longer term view, who loves working with people and ideas, I think it's still a ballgame, but it's a different lifestyle. Please suggest 3 themes for entrepreneurs next time to start a business. The kind of themes I pick up might be limited to the industry that I'm aware of, but I can absolutely double down on a couple of things. I think voice is going to be one of the next biggest opportunity, similar to how search, internet was one big inflection point, but we could start discovering things on the internet only when search came into picture. And search dictated how we discover and find information. In a similar manner, voice is going to completely upend that and create far more opportunities. Because if you understand it, I'm sure a lot of people might relate with this also. We still might be texting on our phones. It has an English alphabets, but we will be texting in Shuddh Hindi also from time to time, right? The limitation here, yeah, I can see very vigorous head shakes, right? The limitation here, that is our native language. That's what we express. That's how we communicate, right? But we have a limitation in terms of the keyboard. It did not allow us to do that. The moment we break that keyboard, and that's the same thing with search also, right? If you look at the keyboard, the input was almost always in English. The input to a search was English. So discoverability was mostly limited to English. But that's not how the way the world works. Suddenly, if you look at it, if you look at interacting with voice, some of you might have already started using your Google Homes and Alexas to either control your alarms and your music. And when you are in voice, I don't think you're looking at being the right accent or anything anymore. You expect Alexa to figure out your accent, not the other way around, right? And that's where the world is also moving to. And suddenly, when this mode of communication, when this mode of interacting with machines and everything from discovering information shifts to voice, that'll open up phenomenal opportunities, right? Some of you will end up creating the technology that makes it happen. A lot of you will create services on top of it that makes it happen, right? Search is one technology, but the gazillion websites that were in the web that enable search to happen. So people are not exactly searching. People are exactly finding information. They want to read, they want to entertain, they want to be informed, right? So the way you discover information is entirely shifting to voice. So voice, I would completely bet on as a phenomenal opportunity. On a related note, if you extend the same thought process, content is predominantly, in English. That's discoverability. It's not English, but again, the same story, right? By the time we shifted to video, I don't think we are dealing in English content anymore. Video, we are seeing a lot of content which is not exactly in our native language. Mashups. We have the Pari Hori also right now, and hundreds of mashups are triggered by it, right? Suddenly, this is more human, right? In a similar manner, there's going to be an insane amount of appetite for vernacular content. It always was there, just that we were limited by our ability to search and discover information. The next 5 to 10 years, I would latch on. So if you have not set up your own YouTube channel, maybe you should go ahead and do it right away. You're going to look stupid initially when you try these things out. That's absolutely fine. We ourselves look stupid when we tried out various things, but have a bunch of people you can be stupid with and keep going ahead, keep forging ahead. And you're going to see an amazing upsurge. And I think you're already seeing that, right? In the last 3 to 5 years, the number of subscribers most of our internet stars have accumulated is insanely high. What changed? What changed? Data became cheap and ubiquitous. Similar to SMS was pricey when I was in college. Data was super expensive until a few years back. We started first observing how streaming can actually really be on a mobile device only about 3 years back, right? When I was in college, YouTube had already been set up and sold to Google, but we were still in a very shitty connection. And when a friend of mine came and told me that, hey, there's something cool called YouTube, people are going to upload and download videos, this is how it's going to shape the world, we rubbished it, because when we're only exposed to internet connection, that hardly loads our GIF images. We can't visualize a world where videos are going to go up and down, right? In a similar manner, the next few years, you're going to see a huge appetite for content and content creators and ways and means of discovering that. So I would probably say that is a second area I would absolutely double down on. Third one, in terms of businesses, you are already viewing this. The entire world is moving to a more digital organized format. Classrooms are going to shift to Zoom, education, healthcare, whichever industry you pick up, everything is going to completely become digital first, not physical first. Physical will be there, it will be reconfigured, but we are moving to from a mobile first to digital first world, and everyone needs help and guidance to navigate this. Talk to anyone, you have come to a world where our families have started having Zoom parties. They would definitely want help. And one of you should probably just write a small guide saying that 10 things to take a look at family parties on Zoom. And for all you know, that will probably also have another 10,000 subscriptions, right? So if you look around, there are a lot of people who need help and guidance to navigate this new world. Businesses, families, communities, education, everywhere alike. And suddenly when the physical is not the first filter that you look at it, everything changes. Look at dating, education. You're not really constrained by your geography anymore. You could speak to anybody, because currently what I'm doing is, even if one of you guys are sitting in a right next lane, I would still talking through in Zoom. It doesn't matter anymore. And suddenly geographies, when physical barriers are different, we start thinking and perceiving the world differently. And all of us are going to co-create this together. None of us know the exact solution. So why not you also be one of the people who start trying it out, and maybe your solution is what others also end up adopting. So yeah, digital first is another area I would completely bet on.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for answering all the queries. Now I would like to know if there's any suggestion for us or feedback.
I think you guys should just go out and have fun. This is great. Each of you, so one different thing. I probably give a shout out of an idea, if that makes any sense to you. Because in a physical world, when you conduct these events like Colloquium, you have to invite one speaker and you put an audience, right? And everyone can sort of tune into that. Now you are in a room. I see about 20 people, and I can hear only one or two voices. But the rest of you are either listening and nodding. But what is happening is we have an opportunity to have hundreds of conversations together. So as an experiment, I would probably propose each of you sitting in the room, instead of talking one to many, you should have probably had a format where each of you speak to one entrepreneur or some parallelly, and create all those conversations. Each of you will pick up a conversation connection. Each of you will be tuned in more. It will be a far more enriching conversation. In the same half an hour of creating one half an hour content, you would have probably created 500 or 5,000 hours of content. Those are some of the options that are provided by a digital first approach, right? So this is one area. And this could be one quick suggestion. I'm sure each of you can come up with hundreds of more if you put together into a discussion over chai or cutting tea, or however you guys want to run your conversations, whatever floats the boat. I think those are areas you should keep exploring. In a similar manner, I was just in between the earlier conversation. We have all been used to doing things in a certain way, but when new technology and new opportunities are away, you have an opportunity to do things in various different ways. Just that it's not probably intuitive for us to do it initially, because nobody told us that we could do it different way. Colloquium need not look like the Colloquium how it used to run last year. That's a thought for you, and whatever that translates to, it's completely up to you to figure it out. But my request or feedback or push would be to play around with it, try what else can be done. And going back to the first sentence, always have fun with it. It doesn't matter. When you try new things, things are going to look stupid, things are going to look what do you call, ugly or non-ugly, but as long as you're having fun with it, it wouldn't matter. I can say from the trends that I've been watching recently, one of the trends that piqued my interest was that each time a new trend comes in, there's a guy who says that I'll never do this. 2 days later, you're trying it out. All of us are trying it out. The key is to keep trying it out. So it's easier to go back and do conservative things. It's easier to go back and do things the way it used to be. But it's far more fun and far more interesting and far more confusing for others to do things that have not been done earlier. So try doing things for yourself and have fun with it. This is one area you could have, you can still do that. All it takes is half an hour. You can probably soon after this call, tweet a founder and say, hey, would you mind coming on a quick call with me, do a YouTube live or a Insta live, and 10 minutes you probably have content. I mean, that's all it takes. It's think in 24-hour cycles, think in half-an-hour cycles, and see what you can put together. But whatever you do, the keyword here is transparent work. Try to put it out there. You are doing a great job of publishing this in YouTube live. So I think whatever you do, make sure you keep doing transparent work. The internet works in a very interesting way. You don't have to find people. People keep finding you. And that's why it's more important for you to keep putting your thoughts and notes out there. And keep doing it. It's not that one perfectly curated content. It's as much as you can in a language that makes sense to you, in a most authentic language that makes sense to you as well. It doesn't cost the earth, right? In a physical format, if you're trying to put together a college magazine or even the Colloquium event, if the number of speakers, you can only slot in 10 speakers in a day. But now it doesn't matter. The internet doesn't hurt. I mean, YouTube is gonna have content worth 10 human lives in the 1 hour or something. That's kind of index. So there's no way in which you can finish content. There's no way you can serially organize content. People will keep finding and discovering. And that will be one thought at the top of my head, but feel free to keep playing around with it.
Thank you so much, sir, for your galvanizing talk. We all feel very motivated today. Also, I'd like to thank you for making last minute changes according to our schedule. We are very grateful to have you here today. Thank you so much, sir.
Not a problem. I think this is again one of the boons of this particular format. Last minute change is absolutely okay. You know what? You gave me a last minute change. I had one extra coffee. So it worked out well for all of us. So it's absolutely fine.
That's a win-win. Well, thank you so much, sir. We feel very honored to have you here today.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure talking to each of you and seeing all your great quizzes as well. All the best. And thanks a lot for your time as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time.
Just as a second, one good thing that I enjoy about this format is that I don't have to navigate with mementos and everything, but I do like to take a memento. I'd like to probably take a quick screenshot. And screenshots are the new mementos is the way I'm looking at it. It's now like how selfies used to be the new autographs until very recently. So I've taken a memento for myself. Thanks a lot for each of your time and happy nodding faces. That also helped me get in the frame of mind in terms of talking to each of you. So good. I hope to run into people, each of you at some point in time. I hope to run into your stories at some point in time, be it Instagram story or one in one of the mainstream newspapers. However, maybe keep doing interesting stuff, and all the best.
Sure, sir.
Thank you. Bye. I can leave now, right? This is okay. Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Now, we would like to ask Colloquium 2021 Chairperson Sana Churi to conclude with a vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone present here. Today, as Chairperson of Colloquium 2021, I would like to take this opportunity and thank everyone who has supported us. Firstly, I would like to thank our college principal, Dr. Madhav Rajwade, Vice Principal, Dr. D.M. Nerkar, and Professor Pramodini Sawant for their constant support. Secondly, I would like to thank all the speakers for taking time out from their busy schedule and empowering us with their motivating words. We will definitely keep your suggestions in mind. Thank you so much. Thirdly, and most important, we would like to thank our beloved BMS coordinator, Professor Shashank Pai, faculty members, Professor Shruti Karande and Manjari Bhosle for giving us this opportunity. This event wouldn't have been possible without your support. Thank you so much. Last, I would like to thank all the audience for being patient. I hope we would have made a difference. Last but not the least, I would like to thank the volunteers and the team for being with us throughout. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Before we end, just a small announcement for all our participants. We will now be putting a link, a feedback form in the comments section on YouTube. We request you to fill it up to avail your certificates. Thank you so much and have a good evening, each of you.